Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Anwan, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Good morning.
Good morning, and Nick is here.
I wasn't late.
No, you were okay. Oh, he's got to have the last word about this time.
Just want to make that the stipulation. I wasn't late.
And the Senor Steve from the big UK is here.
Well, it's only
wrong accent. Sorry.
It's only little in comparison to the wonderful United States of America, and I was almost late.
Mm-hmm.
Amnon.
Yes.
Daily Motion has no sound.
That's correct. Shoot. There it goes.
And we're back.
Hate it when that happens.
User error. But did you not have that like aux send turned up or whatever?
No, it has. I've got faders for the sound to go to the other machine.
Oh, subgroup.
And then when I turn it up, the speaker over there comes, and I have an internal echo here, so
I know what it was.
But everything's fine.
Your fader wasn't set to stun.
So I didn't know I was potted down. Our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is being brought to you by that VidBlaster guy, Tom Sinclair. And by Adamus.com, makers of quality video converters and recorders for professionals. And today
and
is...
For the benefit of Tom, it's 3rd August 3rd?
It's the 3rd of August.
That's the one.
Yep, it is. Mike, you did something different on your shot. You are zoomed in.
Not HD.
He's not?
Oh, wait. I know why.
Oh.
Wrong cam?
No.
Okay.
There he goes.
Yep. Now, okay, I guess I need to capture according to Nick's.
Yep, hold on.
Let's
1 second
do
here.
this real quick.
Yeah. Why didn't that work? Hold on.
How did it jump up? Well, who's making it jumping up and down? You do? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Let me
There we go,
This way.
Yes, Merle, formerly that VidBlaster guy.
What?
He is, I believe he's changed his name to East Shore Broadcasting.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his YouTube channel. I don't believe he's going by that VidBlaster guy name anymore.
Well,
Or according to his YouTube, he's not.
Shows you how much in touch.
Oh, I only
you are.
found out about it a few days ago. Yeah, he's still doing the show, that VidBlaster guy, I believe. But his whole...
I guess I'll need to call him and find out if he wants me to.
His whole brand name now is, I think it's East Shore Broadcasting.
Interesting.
That might be wrong, though. I'm not 100%
East
positive.
Shore. I guess that's the East Shore.
I'm not sure what he's the East Shore of.
Well, he's in he's got a bay where he is.
Oh.
And I guess it's the East Shore of that bay.
A
Hey,
babe
Emma.
or a babe?
Evan, do you ever use Apache?
Years ago.
Okay.
Why?
Never mind. Apache, I don't need to run anything else for PHP. I can just run Apache.
It
and that should handle
loads PHP. It loads
Yeah.
PHP, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I guess everything is ready here. And good morning to everybody in the chat and everybody who's listening and is not in the chat. Why don't you log into the chat?
Yeah. Don't make Amnon mad. Log into the chat.
I'm not going to get mad. I'm just
He's
Andrew-
gonna cancel the show.
Andrew, I don't want to hear I didn't get the link because I just sent it. I don't want to hear that.
Ooh.
Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Andrew.
So, Nick, before we get into anything, I want to hear any progress that you did since I left you last night, as far as the Albany Storms.
Well, I'm an idiot in that respect.
Okay, there
Is
it
that
goes
for,
again.
for a vote or what?
No, that is not a for vote.
Okay.
That is I'm crowning myself an idiot. For whatever reason, I was gonna laziness set in, and I was gonna go buy this piece of crap dual core Windows PC, and when in reality I had a Core i3 laptop to run the snow cams that I do during the winter. And unfortunately, the Open Broadcaster software, which I believe is probably the best encoder on the market, and it's free, needs the Intel HD 3000 built-in graphics card or higher to perform with some features that are involved with DirectX 10. So, no, well, I'm using XSplit. That's the update. I have to use XSplit instead of Open Broadcaster, which there are some disadvantages of that, and also some advantages.
But all in all, you're not as down on it. You are going to do it, right?
Yeah, I hope if I can figure out this one thing, then I should be ready to go.
Okay.
I got to what is the word I'm looking for here? I've got to jerry-rig together an outdoor or a weatherproof enclosure for my webcam. So I'm gonna probably head out to the hardware store after the show and pick something up.
Tell everybody the enclosure that you.
Well, I'm not going to talk about it yet. I'm not sure if that's exactly how I'm going to do it. I have to look and see what they have in
Okay.
stock, because there might be a better solution that's cheaper. Not that this solution is expensive, but there might be a better way to do it. So we'll see.
Okay. All right.
Clear plastic bag.
Well, last year actually, I did I took a travel coffee cup, you know, the Dixie coffee cups that you buy from the store, and cut a hole in the side of it and just kind of put the webcam in there so the snow wouldn't get on it, and that worked pretty well.
And it was
Did-
white.
Did you patent the idea? Or patent?
Did I what?
Patent the idea?
No, the snow ended up building up on the top of it and causing it to collapse. So, I did not patent the idea.
Oh,
It was
okay.
it was duct tape and the hole in a coffee cup. That's what I did last year. But I'm going HD this year. We're gonna have a webcam going. It's gonna be good.
He's going to town.
Yeah, it's a fun little thing to do. People seem to like it too. So
All right. So you remember when Apple bought who was it? The headphones guy.
Beats by Dr. Dre.
Beats. So Bose has taken issue with some of the technology embodied in products in Apple's newly acquired Beats line of headphones. As Ars Technica reports, Bose is suing Apple,
Arm.
claiming that the Beats products violate 5 Bose patents covering noise cancellation and signal processing, Although Bose never mentioned Apple as in 22-page complaints, the acquisition price of the private company may have played a part in spurring Bose to sue. The suit doesn't include a specific damage demand. Bose has also filed a complaint with the U.S. International Trade Commission against Beats over the same infringement claims. That means the patent lawsuit filed in federal court will be stayed while the ITC case gets resolved first. So, are they after money?
Beats or Bose probably not. I mean, I think at the end of the day they're probably after money, but Bose is probably just trying to protect their stuff because their stuff's pretty damn expensive.
Right. But
So,
all
no,
this
I mean-
all this time, it was not an infringement?
You know what? Now
Just
that you say that, you make a good point that now that Apple's probably got some deeper pockets than Beats had.
It
So
gives that
are they
impression,
suing
doesn't it?
Apple or are they suing Beats?
Suing Apple.
Suing Apple. Then yeah, you know what? You're right. It probably is about money.
Mike, what do you say? You're the
The
I
expert.
don't know. I think sometimes they do these things for recreation. I mean, it's really kind of funny to hear Bose suing somebody for technology.
why?
Bose,
Why is
well,
that
Bose, Dr. Bose was a brilliant guy, but unfortunately the marketing people got hold of the product line. And then Bose is not what it used to be. Bose used to be the quintessential first-class, top-rate, studio-quality speaker. And they may have some of that line, but they also sell, like the Bose radio is Chinese junk, was way overpriced, like, well, it's really expensive. And so, I don't know. There's so many lawsuits that go on every day that people don't know anything about. I don't really pay a lot of attention to them. So,
But it's more mentions of apples in the media. Good or bad, it's a mention.
yeah. There are more Windows XP computers in use than there are Apple computers in the world.
True. Don't give them ideas. They're going to sue
So Windows
Microsoft.
XP.
Microsoft
I thought you were going to say don't give Nick ideas to get into the XP talk again.
to start another.
Maybe you just need to sue Apple and get some publicity out of it.
Oh yes.
The guys
You know,
in
the
the chat
Beats really that
room.
good. I guess it depends on what you like. I've heard that they are overpriced plastic. I've never used them. I don't know.
They're good for rap. They're good for hip hop, stuff that you want to listen to a lot of bass with. If that's what you listen to, I think they're perfect headphones. But if you're going to listen to I don't know, some classic rock, you're wasting. I know for a fact you're wasting your time and your money. And I think even if you're listening to rap and or hip hop, you're still wasting your time and money because they're very expensive. So I want to say the bass are like $150.
Well, I just did a review on some headphones for a vendor. These were Audio-Technica ATH-M50X headphones. And the review says that I was not impressed when I was asked to review them because I'm not a big headphone person. I'm not wearing them now. Audio reviews where people talk about when they try to describe the sound, to me they're kind of laughable. Oh, they have this really pronounced low end, but the top is very smooth and silky. What does all that mean? I don't know what that means. I mean, it's after a while you read it and you sort of get a sense of what they're trying to say. But at the time that these headphones came in, they sat over here in a box for a month before I even took them out of the box. These are $160 headphones, and finally I knew that the company that sent them to me would want a response or entitled to one. So I finally one day I was sitting here playing some music, and I went over and grabbed the headphones and plugged them in. And I got to tell you, it was an experience. I mean, it was like jumping into a swimming pool. As soon as I put these headphones on, the song that I was listening to, the way I describe it is that for the first time I could actually hear the pick hitting the guitar strings on the acoustic guitar buried deep in the left channel. Never heard anything like that. I mean, put them on and it's just like a different recording. You understand, I listen for things in recordings a lot of people don't listen to. And I mean, it just jumped out at me. I played some other songs that wasn't quite as good or pronounced on those, but it was very good. And I don't know that I want to pay $160 for them, but it was amazing how good sounding they are. It was also amazing to me to learn 2 or 3 years ago that one of the hottest audio items for Christmas was headphones. I have headphones all over this place. Cheap headphones, expensive headphones. I just don't like them. Well, part of the reason was I grew up on headphones. In fact, I killed my hearing with headphones. They're very dangerous to run them too loud. But there is a new generation of headphones, and particularly now that people want to be able to listen to personal audio without bothering other people. We didn't have the portable devices to play like we do now. The headphones, I guess, have found their way. They have an important role now. The only thing I can say is just don't run the things too loud. I like it loud. If I had my way about it, I would still run things loud. But at my age, I'm paying the price for having done that at Nick's age.
Yeah, you sometimes wondering if these guys driving around are going to be able to hear anything in a few years.
Huh?
I said you wonder if some of these guys driving around with their boom boom in the car are going to be able to hear anything.
What did you say?
Well, you interestingly enough, do you know that? Well, you probably don't know. That's what I'm going to tell you. But Adolf Hitler used subsonic audio at very high power rate for torture. He would take someone he wanted information from, put them in front of these gigantic speakers, and generate audio in the, as I recall, the 20 to 25 hertz region, which you really can't hear, but you can feel it. And this vibration would actually cause internal vibration of your internal organs, which can cause them to bruise, and it really makes you extremely nauseated to have to endure it. He used this boom for torture during World War II. Wasn't really well known, and these idiots riding around with these cars that boom every time the back wheels lift up off the ground every time they hit a bass note is just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, technical question.
I'm sorry.
When you and Nick are talking, even though normally it's okay, what's the red light on the fader?
Clipping.
Clipping.
Yeah.
It clips every now and then.
Then you got something set wrong. You probably have to turn down. What you should do is turn down the volume, the playback volume on the computer speaker.
Or just turn down the gain on the mixer.
No. Now, if I wanted him to turn down the gain on the mixer, wouldn't I have told him to turn down the gain on the mixer?
Mike, I don't know who you think you are, but I'm an audio expert.
Well, that's true, but I'm going to learn you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so you want me to turn down the speaker?
Yeah, on the computer, turn the speaker volume down on the computer and turn the fader up, because you could be overdriving the input to the mixer.
You think that just the regular, 100% volume control on the computer would be overdriving the mixer?
On output, I do.
Interesting, because my output's always at 100, and I've never had that problem.
Well,
I always used to set mine to 80.
Sound card. I've got these 1010 LT sound cards. If I run them at 100%, it'll be distorted on every word.
Really?
Yep.
So that's because I'm using the. Oh, actually, I'm using the UCA 202, so I wonder if that's.
I don't know.
Okay.
You just have to test it, but the way you test it is on depending on which board you have, you have a function that we never talk about called level set on some of them. I know the Mackie boards have it. I don't remember whether the Behringers have it. And what it will do on level set is you can have the faders all the way off. You can still see the level going into the mix channel. If the red light comes on with the faders down, you're overdriving the input channel, and it will distort even if you have the level going out set very low. It just, again, I'm not sure on the Behringer mixers. I don't have one. I've always thought about getting one to test and demonstrate that sort of thing. In fact, somebody asked me about that this week, Nick. I don't remember who it was.
About what, a Behringer board?
No, about overdriving the input. Somebody said that.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, but I thought it might have been in the Hangout. But
No.
That fixed it.
who was it? Maybe I know Merle or somebody was asking
Oh,
about a
you're not
video
making it, Merle. I don't remember
for
that.
setting mixer levels. And since I never had a camera to do that sort of thing, I never did one. But I may want to. Of course, what happens when I mention these things, somebody takes it and does it ahead of me. So at least I motivate somebody to go out and to do a YouTube tutorial on how to properly set your mixer levels.
I'll do it.
Okay, what happens is that people get their mixers in, they start moving controls around until everything sounds about right, and then they say, oh, that's good, when that's not the way to do it. And Merle, it wasn't just you. I mean, I think you were the latest, but it's probably one of the most common questions you have that you see in this area, because what I always teach is to get the mixer levels right. Forget everything else. Get your mixer levels correct. Learn how to set your mixer levels. Then you calibrate everything else to the mixer, and you don't have to worry about everything else. Just keep the levels correct on the mixer, and then everything else will be correct. That's the way it works. I mean, if you go into a recording studio with $1 million worth of recording equipment, you have a guitar player and a singer in the studio recording. The recording engineer watches the meters in the on the console, and then as far as the Pro Tools and the external recorders, sure, they glance over to check and make sure nothing's wrong, because it's very expensive to have somebody tinker with something and make a mistake. But the reality is if the mixer levels are correct, everything else is going to be fine. 919-518-9773 or on Skype, Computers 2K Voice.
And somebody just called in. Who do we have? Hello? No,
No one's home.
they're gone.
Just to let
got
you know,
scared.
I'm not on hold.
Yeah, I know. That's why it took me so long to answer it. I said,
Call
okay,
again.
it's just one. I'm going to answer. Nick, you had me, remember you had me do some testing, and you said, yeah, there's a problem. Did you find anything?
No, I didn't have a chance to test it again. So I
Okay.
believe the possible issue that we're having is a mix-match versions of Skype. I think that could potentially be part of the problem.
But why is it always on the third? It's almost
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
it's almost like it's not allowing you to have more than.
No, because it allows up to 20 callers.
Yeah,
in
it's
audio.
supposed to. Especially when you pay for it.
Well, that's what happens.
Suffer Russian Dick Dastardly.
Matt, so I'd like to talk about an experience I had last night. Actually,
Hold it. Let me answer this. Oh, and then he went. You see, now, Steve, you here? No, he's not.
Oh no.
So now it's only two of them. So there goes my theory. Who do we have online?
Hey, Amnon, it's Merle.
Hey, Merle.
Hey, I thought I'd call in real quick while you guys were talking about the audio thing, because you guys give me all this advice and it works, but then what happens is I forget it. So like last week I was asking Mike, it just seems like I always have troubles with the gain, because I have the sound card that you have to adjust the volume that goes over to an input on the mixer, which then before the signal gets to the mixer, I got it going through a processor. So, I mean, there's three different gains, and I think Nick helped me last week tremendously. But I was always looking for a resource, because I know you guys probably get sick of people asking the same question over and over again. I was just trying to find a resource that I could hit and watch a YouTube video that says, here's how to appropriately set up this gain chain, because, I mean, it's a bear, and it's probably half my problem is my Behringer mixer, because I think it's a little noisy, and I know for sure that the sound card I have has noise in it because I've done everything to get rid of it, but you can just hear like the fan running in a lot of my audio.
Yeah, and that's before people say Merle has no clue what he's talking about. I, with my AMD computer, which is a Gigabyte motherboard, have the exact same problem that Merle's describing. My line input on the computer, you can hear the hard drive, you can hear what's going, you can hear the CPU, you can hear that stuff on the line. So that can be a problem. Unfortunately, I'm forced to use, I shouldn't say forced, but I have to use the UCA 202s because those inputs and outputs are both noisy.
Okay, so get an external sound card and plug it in.
Yeah, and that's what I had to do.
Well, when I say external, I mean one that plugs into the PCI or PCI Express.
Yes, yeah, I don't have any ports left, so it doesn't work for me, but I'm sure it works for somebody else.
And that's the same problem I have. So I use my 202 for like a Skype, to do the mix minus, and then so I've got to use my my internal sound card, to output to like my stream. So it gets frustrating to hear that noise. And like I said, you guys have always been fantastic, and you tell me, do this with your gain, 12 o'clock, go over here and do this with your gain on your gate, and it works. But in like 3 or 4 months, I forget it all. So it just kind of gets frustrating sometimes.
Let's tell people that we're all friends with Merle. We talk during the week and we rag on each other a lot. But what you're saying, a lot of people have the same problem, Merle. What you have to do is two things, and I'm not picking on you and I'm not dogging on you.
Right.
All right, I'm dead serious. A, learn how your equipment works. B, set it and forget it. Once you learn how to set it up, Amnon and I have been over this time and time again. I went over and set up the equipment for Amnon. What does he do? He says, let me go get a camera and take a picture so I'll know where the knobs go. I say, no, don't take a picture of it. Learn what the knobs do. Because two things will happen. You'll need to change something. You won't know what you're changing. Or after you change something, you won't understand how to put it back. And the stupid example that I use, the comparison that I use is, if you were police chief of the city of Raleigh and you had a cop who couldn't shoot his gun, didn't understand how it worked, what would you do? You'd kick his or her butt off the squad. All I'm saying is that the resources are out there for you to learn how to do it. And honest to God, I'm telling the truth. A brain surgeon told me one time, he said, Mike, brain surgery's not that hard once you know how to do it. Yeah, it's okay, great, I'll pass. But the resources are here for you to learn how to do these things. I've helped you. I'll help you again. Whatever you want to do. But at some point you'll break through, and it'll all of a sudden click with you, and then you'll know how to do it. And that's what I would suggest. Back in the old days, whenever the easiest way to calibrate things, and a lot of recording studios still do it, is to use test tones. And what we would do is feed a 400 hertz tone into the mixer or console at minus 10 dB. That way you don't get into any clipping or any problems. You have all processing turned off. You don't use processing in any of this in the studio at this point. You put that 400 hertz tone through the mixer. You make sure all the levels are set, and that is that whenever you turn on an audio source, the potentiometer or the slider, whatever you're using on your mixer, goes to a convenient, usable, workable position. That doesn't mean just barely turned on. That doesn't mean wide open. It means usually about 2/3 of the way up. The reason you set it to about 2/3 of the way up is because if you need to increase the volume, you've got room to do it. If you need to reduce the volume, you can move it down to reduce the volume. But at 2/3 of the way up, that's probably the optimum point at which you will get the least amount of the noise floor, or the hiss, as some would call it. It's the best signal to noise ratio at about 2/3 of the way up. Beyond that, the other thing that people don't, and Merle, this is something that people, well, you know what I'm talking about when I say this, but I tell people to do this, and they say, okay, and then they lie. They don't do it. They don't
Right.
believe it. They don't subscribe to it. And what I say to people is that when you're setting up your mixer for the first time, if you look at the main mix controls on there, the main outputs on the mixer, most of them have the slider boards have what are called, I call landing pads. About 2/3, 3/4 of the way up, you'll see these little pads that sort of look like the outline of the button on the slider. And what I tell people is to put those master controls on right even with those pads, and then get some epoxy and glue them down. Now, I hope nobody puts epoxy on their mixer, but the point I'm making is I can only think of about 2 circumstances where you would ever use the master fader controls. Once you set them, that calibrates the mixer so that you can do everything else you need to do to get the levels at predictable, repeatable levels. I don't know how many times I've seen people operating the mixer with the sliders at 10% of the way up, 20% of the way up, and well, the collar's not loud enough. And then they reach over and grab the master fader and push it up so they can hear the collar. Then they talk and they start clipping because the master changes all of the volume levels at the same time. Put them on the position where I suggested and leave them there. Then you calibrate everything else coming in. You set your mic and gain, trim, and all that so that the mixer's level is correct when you talk. And whenever you're playing a music into one of the channels, you'll have usually a trim control or some sort of, I'm not going to get into all of it, but it's really not that complicated. And the reason that it gets really complicated is because you try to introduce a processor like a gate limiter compressor. You put that in the signal before everything else is calibrated. And I'll finish this little diatribe by saying this. If I were going to use a processor like you're doing, which I wouldn't, but if I were going to use it, the first thing I would do is leave it disconnected, have it completely disconnected from the mixer, get my levels on the mixer exactly right, make sure the microphone is trimmed correctly, there's no clipping, it only barely tickles the yellow lights, the master fader is set at the right level, I'm interfacing with all of my external equipment. When I talk into Skype, the level is correct. I would get it all done without the processor. When you plug the processor in, no levels should change. If the levels change, you adjust the processor, not the mixer. You should be able to unplug the processor from the mixer and nothing changes except that you don't have as much control over the audio signal. And there, I'm done with that.
Right. Well, hey, thanks, Mike. I always appreciate your advice, and I will tell you, I've always taken your advice, Amnon, Nick. Matter of fact, you did a great thing on the IAB, and it really even, after watching that and knowing what you've said in before, I used to put a lot of compression on my audio based on, I won't say who I subscribed to before that, but the Boom and Sizzle, you've definitely helped me with my audio, and I've gotten rid of most. I just basically use the gate now just because of some background noise. So I thank you guys for all you do. I got to run, but good show, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Well, I was going to tell you before you leave, Merle, is that guy whom you're talking about is he's going to give you the privilege to sit around the table with him for $1,000 for the day. It allows you to be near him.
Yeah, that's where I'm going right now. I'm going to the airport to fly out to Texas so I can be a part of that discussion.
See you later, Merle.
So, all right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you.
Bye.
All right, so now I can resume it here. Interesting. Steve? Steve?
Earth to Steve.
Maybe he stepped away. Anyway,
Can you hear me now?
yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, but go ahead and connect to Nissan Guest because I don't want this to happen again.
Right. I'll do that now. I didn't want to connect to that and then possibly knock him off. So I thought, well, he's got a question. I'll just sit and wait.
Oh, yeah, you can go ahead and disconnect and connect to Nissan Guest.
Movie Buff was asking how I was listening to audio. I'm using speakers.
That's the way to do it.
It is if you don't run them too loud.
Right.
If you run them too loud, it gets real hollow sounding.
Oh, that's, I'm an idiot.
Good morning, Dan.
Now, Steve is
Oh,
showing
boy.
like he is
Oh boy.
not online.
Hi, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Well,
How are you?
It's Andrew.
Oh, my idol.
I am not. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Andrew.
hello.
I wanted to call in and talk about the last segment. You were talking to Merle about audio. You have it all wrong. You have it all wrong.
Okay, well, go ahead and straighten me out. Let me get my pencil.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. All right, go ahead.
Take the gain and crank it all the way up.
Right, that red light tells you that you've got enough audio going into the mixer, right?
Exactly.
All right.
And then
Oh.
take the microphone and bring it as close as you can to your mouth. I would actually put part of the microphone in your mouth and just mumble words into it.
Like Joe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly what I would do.
So Andrew, are you going down to Dallas to give the guy $1,000 to be in his presence?
I was not invited to Dallas.
No,
Yeah.
I know this, but he's I sent you a link. I don't know if you checked it, but there's a guy who you like. In fact, you met him and said he was a great guy, who has rented a room in Dallas, and he's going to.
I said I did not say that.
What? What happened?
I didn't say
Well,
that.
something just went wrong with your connection, Andrew.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he can hear you, but your audio's out of sync. But anyway, go ahead. He's rented a table, and he's going to charge 10 people $1,000 each to be with him,
Oh, Mike.
to be near him.
I need to get my plane ticket ordered, don't I?
You know what? Good for him. There's a sucker born every day, and if he's able to monetize off these idiots, then he. I don't know what to say.
Yes, Dan, that would be him. Good morning, Gene.
You don't have to give someone money to learn how to podcast. That's 1,000 times.
Well, you're just
You know
jealous.
what makes something a good podcast? Someone that's interesting, good content,
Like me.
decent audio. There's no magic. There's no secret sauce, as somebody that we know would say. Secret sauce does not exist.
I mean,
If you're interesting, people are going to listen to you. If you have it is it. And most people do not have it.
I do.
You do.
a lot of people do need help with technology, how to implement it, but this can be gotten without having to go to somebody like that supposedly knows everything about everything, right?
No amount of technology is going to make your viewership go from 10 to 100,000.
Right.
There's no technology that exists that does that, as far as I know. The problem is some people, technically they don't understand it, they don't know what to do, but you can get this information for free.
Absolutely. Tell them where.
It's provided by multiple people. I mean, we do it on the IIB, but if you don't want to go to us, you could go there's 1,000 other resources out there that provide you with that information. Mike just said the key to getting decent audio. You just explain how you do it. Is this guy that has no radio experience, no broadcasting experience, no creative experience going to be able? What qualifies him?
An expert.
Listen, I have no radio background either, but I've studied with people from radio. They have taught me. Mike has taught me. Chris Tobin has taught me.
All right. The problem we're making fun of this situation. You know what? More power to him. If people want to pay him to be near him, then more power to him. I don't care. But
To be near him.
huh?
To be near him.
Well, he's a celebrity in his own mind. So I mean, more power to them. It just gets really frustrating. But what I've learned, and I don't mean this unkindly, I really don't. Guy's got a family. More if he's providing for them, more power to him. But the problem is, I've come to the realization that you cannot protect people from their own stupidity. And I try to keep people from wasting money and from spending things. But you know what? Maybe some people enjoy spending money. Maybe they want to waste it. More power to
That's
them.
fine. If they're getting this one-on-one training from him, my problem is not the money. or any of these guys. My problem is not making money. My problem is giving wrong information to these people. These people sit there and they listen to them and they give them information and they leave thinking, well, now I'm going to make it. Now I'm going to have a podcast. Now I'm going to make some money. And the reality is you will not make money as a podcast. The odds of you making money as a podcaster are slim.
Right.
And you know why they love the term podcast? Because they're not doing content. They're not doing a broadcast. These guys are providing seminars and life coaching, and you could do it, and then that's fine. But how is he going to tell me, if I have a comedy podcast, how is he going to tell me how to make money doing a comedy podcast when he knows nothing about content creation? That's my...
Yeah, I mean, but you hit the nail on the head, and then we'll move on because it's not a show to dog these guys, because a couple of these guys who are providing these consulting services are good guys.
Absolutely. No, absolutely not. And I stand by that. And I'm actually thinking about creating a list on the IIB of the people that I would use.
Right.
But then I'm going to upset a lot of people.
But even one of the guys I like, and I think he does a good job for what I call the web aspect of it, and that is setting up WordPress, setting up the RSS feed, setting up hosting with Blubbery or Libsyn or one of. I mean, he does a good job. But when it comes to audio, I mean, he's worse than Nick.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You know what, Mike? You know what? I'm gonna announce it here.
Uh-oh.
If you give me $50, I will spend 10 minutes with you.
What's your PayPal address?
My PayPal is guysfromqueens@gmail.com.
But how much does it cost to be near you, Andrew?
Oh, to be near me?
Yes.
$51.
How much?
51.
For how long?
That sounds like a deal.
10 minutes. You could be around me for time. I'm irritable. You're gonna go on a leave immediately.
All right.
But I had thought about doing a service like that, you know, where you get an expert in everything. You get a video expert, you get an audio expert, you get a lighting expert, you get a content creation expert, you get a comedy expert, and here you go. You want coaching? Okay, what do you need it on?
I'm a lighting expert.
Yeah, and among other things. And the part but you hit the nail on the head last week or the week before, Andrew, whenever we were talking about this. There's an event coming up for podcasters, a meeting event, and it's probably going to be a pretty good event. There's going to be some good stuff there. However, if you look at the website and look at who the speakers are, it has almost nothing to do with podcasting. It's all about get-rich-quick success coach.
Absolutely.
What is the point?
The problem with all these. And because the reality is there's not enough money in podcasting to sustain an event like this and have people turn out. To have a large turnout, people aren't podcasting. And the reality is podcasters don't have enough money to come to an event. Who has money is corporations that send their staff to events like this, where it's, easy steps on being successful, and all these seminars are being put together that are like that. How many people are going to sit and listen to, me, for example, talk about creating an RSS for your podcast? If I do, nobody cares.
You can look that up on the internet. That's not what it's about. They want to, I guess, have the interaction with the individuals or something. It's
a great event to network and to meet people, and it's a great way to get your internet friends together and go to an event. But I mean, even Blog World, which I've been a supporter of for a while, and I've spoken multiple times. I think it's silly. And I've told people this. During my talk, I go, this is silly that you're sitting here, it's 70 people in the room, and you're sitting here and you're listening to us. They get upset when I say that, but it is silly. I'm not going to tell you something that's not available.
There is one thing that I have to argue here.
Yes.
Okay.
The making money doing a podcast.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Many of us, I mean, most of us, I think, that do podcasts seriously. Either we are our own boss, or we have a company that we set up just for that purpose, kind of. So the way that everybody is making money, everybody who does a podcast this way, you need to talk to your accountant. The write-off of being able to do your hobby, so to speak, can make you money by writing that equipment off because it's part of your business.
I disagree.
Why?
Because if you go out and spend $1,000 and you're able to write off $20 on your $200 on your taxes, I don't think that you haven't made 200, you've lost 800.
Well, but the thing is, you're going to do it anyway.
Well, what you're saying is that if you pursue it as a business, that you can use tax savings to help fund your habit.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah. Good way of putting it.
But this is actually a good entree into something that someone was asking about. I don't remember whom. But before we even talk about that, Steve, I have a question for you. You were intimately involved with TalkShoe. You knew probably most of the broadcasters, and certainly all the broadcasters there who were regular. How many of those people do you think might have been making money with TalkShoe?
I would say about 3.
And how were they making it?
Through advertising on their shows, and that's it, basically.
And were these advertisers...
What kind of numbers were they getting?
They were getting quite large numbers on the 3 that I knew that were making money, but it was mainly local advertising. It's much like you've got here with a location in a community type field. Those were the shows that were making money, or the get rich quick ones. You know, the ones that sort of say,
there you go.
We can turn your life around and change it. Those people were probably making money through PayPal contributions, donations, call them what you want, subscriptions. But it was a rip-off. So, you know, there's always that element that you will always get, because people believe everything that they see and hear on the internet, unfortunately.
I mean, the number, there's a couple ways to make money. One, if you're doing a very niche broadcast, very niche, like This Week in Radio Tech, we have that on the network. That makes more money than people would probably expect.
But it didn't happen immediately.
It didn't happen immediately. They did it for 3 years, and all of a sudden everybody started knocking because they realized that it's a very niche broadcast and they could target the products to that exact audience. So that, and by the way, they have numbers. So if I were to say what the numbers are, they get about 5,000 to 6,000, downloads a week for the audio, and another, let's say, 3,000 for the audio, for the video. So let's say it's 10,000. That is not significant.
It is when you're talking about a niche.
When you're talking about it, yeah. When it's a niche broadcast or niche, that's significant. That's a big audience because you're going to be able to focus in on the ads. But if you're doing a tech podcast, no, you're not going to. You could get an advertiser, but you're not going to have a successful campaign unless you have about 25 to 50,000 unique listeners per episode.
Well, even yesterday. And this, at this point, we pick on a lot of people because it is kind of funny. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of funny. But I want to talk about something that happened yesterday. And I don't want to dog on the guy because he's not a bad guy from what I can tell, and I don't want to call his name. But there's a guy out there who holds himself out as one of the probably top 3 podcasters in the country, or the world, or the country anyway.
Top 3 podcasters.
Yes. He has done a lot of things in the industry to make himself well known, and has released some excellent products for free to the community. So I mean, he's got credibility. But you will listen to him talk, and he talks about how much money his friends and neighbors and countrymen are making using his services, and all of his advertisers lining up to place ads on podcasts, that sort of nature. Talks about how wonderful his numbers are, about how he's learned to build his followers, the various things that he talks about. And so yesterday, he was doing a live broadcast. I tuned in to watch. 4 people in chat and 7 people on the live stream. 3 of them were on the show. Where are the numbers? How?
Sounds like a winner to me.
Well, but seriously, what's going on with that?
No, nobody honestly talks about how many viewers they get.
Well, in the radio business, if nobody listened, you didn't get to sell any advertising.
Yeah, well, the problem is there's no way to track there's no way to track viewership on podcasting. I'm sorry, none of these services are accurate. Blueberry's not accurate. None of these services are accurate. They're all totally inflated numbers.
Blubbery certified.
And even site statistics, Alexa, all that stuff's BS.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
No.
Some of them are pretty accurate. When you look at...
How do you know that they're accurate? That's the thing. Everybody I look at my...
If everybody is being given the same amount... If there's a curve, for example, then it's accurate because nobody has leverage over the other one.
There's a fact with Alexa...
It's pretty consistent. It's pretty accurate.
There's a fact with Alexa that if you stop paying for stop paying for premium, your site ranking goes to the toilet.
That's not true. That's what some people say, but that's not true at all. Alexa, listen, Alexa is not a representation of anything because it can be gamed. But
it can be
you get
gamed.
a good idea with Alexa. You get a good idea of what you're dealing with. And only people that look at Alexa are people that are looking to invest somehow with an ad, or they're trying to gauge how popular you are. And there's more. It's just a tool in measuring. It's just another tool to add to it. I wouldn't say that Alexa is the end-all, be-all, because I know a lot of people out there that are gaming Alexa. They're buying Alexa rankings, and the same is for Twitter. You can't really gauge how popular someone is based on their number of followers. You gauge it based on their interaction with people. And you would do the same with their it's just an addition. So you look at their podcast numbers, you look at their Alexa ranking. It's more likely that someone isn't going to game the system all across the board. They're just going to pick one. We know someone that bought 36,000 Alexa followers. Twitter followers.
See, and that I think this reinforces what Nick says, that the numbers are not right.
So
no, the numbers are right. It's just gamed. It's not like there's a glitch. People game numbers. We know another person that he started a new website. He's starting a podcast. He's never done the podcast, but he has a 150 Alexa ranking because he buys Alexas. He's never done anything.
Well, isn't
content on the website?
Isn't that...
The website's actually not even online right now.
And the website's not online right now.
Isn't that, in other words, saying the numbers are not correct?
Well...
Because the numbers we're talking about, correct or not correct, are numbers to base decisions on. And these are not correct numbers to base decisions on.
You're going to have people that do this, but...
Well...
You have to look at all of it. What you need to do, if you're looking to invest into a podcast, you're looking to advertise, you need to get a direct third-party gauge. So you have to get Podtrac to send the numbers. You have to get Blueberry to send the numbers. That's the only way to gauge proper numbers. You can't go based on what someone is telling you because people lie all the time. Every one of my advertisers, I provide them a link. I personally provide them with the data, and then I give them the contact info for Podtrac, and I tell them to email them for more if they want more numbers. I don't gain anything by lying.
No, I don't think anybody does.
Nobody does.
Well,
yeah.
For the short term, you may get that check, but they're not going to advertise with you again if they figure out that your numbers are baloney.
Not true. I know 2 people who are lying through their teeth, and they're benefiting from it.
Well,
I don't. Great. I can say I'm getting 10,000 downloads an episode. What does that do for me? What does that do for you? Absolutely nothing.
And especially
absolutely nothing.
If you're going after if you're not going after advertisers, it doesn't do any good anyway.
Even if you are going after advertisers, it doesn't do you anything. Like Andrew said, congratulations. You get who's a sponsor? Who's sponsoring podcasts?
Well, let me comment on it and say it this way. We've always said, Nick, before we knew you, and probably even before we knew Andrew, Amnon made it very clear, and we agreed. Spencer agreed. We would like to have this show have as 10 or 20 times as many people listening. I mean, you want all you can get. That's the way the nature of the business is.
Sure.
But let me ask you this: what are we doing to grow the viewership?
I don't think the only thing is consistency. That's it.
Consistency. But we're not doing the blogging. We're not buying any advertising. We're not cross promoting. We're not pumping it up. I mean, we're not doing it, not because we don't care, but because that's not what our intent is. We have a great little group of people, a regular bunch. People who come on a regular basis sort of know what they're in for. So we're not really trying to grow the audience, but what we'd like to, but we're not spending a lot of time doing it. But here's my point. A lot of these podcasters out there who are claiming all these numbers, and I need to get my trying to talk CPM and all this nonsense, we've got more viewers than they do.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, we've got a significant number than most of them do, including this guy yesterday who, and I'm not taking it away from him, nobody watches his live podcast. The numbers reflected right there on the screen. You can see how many people are watching.
Now, live is a hard thing to capture.
All right, talk about it.
I will talk about this, and you know what? If I'm going to talk about how many downloads I get on my podcast, and if you believe I'm lying, more power to you. Like I said before, I have nothing to gain by cheating the system here. So, Amnon can attest this too. He watches the show almost every week. So, an average show live gets anywhere between 10 and maybe 20 people. That might be high. That is an average live broadcast for us. We don't really push the live as much as we should.
You're talking about Radar Gaming.
Yes, on the radar. The
radar.
We do it Thursday night. 10, hardly ever 20. Somewhere in that 10 to 15 range. That's average what we get live. And we get anywhere between 300 or 400, 500 downloads every week.
Nick.
Yes, Mike.
Let's suppose that you went to school and they said, Nick, we want you to speak to a group of people. You had 15 people in that room.
Okay.
Would that be insignificant?
No, but it's insignificant to you said that guy has nobody watching his show live. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not getting any downloads. I get anywhere between 300 or 500 downloads an episode.
I understand.
15 people
I understand
live.
that. But I will tell you, how many people watch Leo live?
He has a very high live audience.
Well,
probably at a concurrent, or are we talking overall?
Concurrent.
Probably for his biggest show, probably about 3,000 to 4,000.
I mean, there's points for Twit, the weekly tech show. It used to be the point where you had to log into the chat room 6 hours before the show started, or you had to go to the overflow room.
Yeah, what happened with that?
I'm not sure if that's still the case.
Still like that? No, it's still like that.
So he has captured the live audience really well, and I think he always has. But again, that's not the case for everybody.
Only a fraction. You're talking about. We're talking 2,500 people, right? Let's say 3,000 people concurrent.
Yep.
Let's say total for that show they got 15,000. They get about 500,000 unique downloads per episode. It is a fraction. It is insignificant compared to the big picture.
Why does anybody bother with live?
I've got to agree with Nick on this as far as the live, because think about it this way. You cannot... the only time that live is important, forget about podcasting, is when you're watching TV or listening to the radio. The biggest thing that the podcasting, and even when it wasn't called podcasting, but it was just, we're going to do it on the internet also, was because people could come out later and listen to it. Because they didn't have time to do it right then. They wanted to sit with the family and watch it or listen to whatever. So the downloads and listening afterwards are a feature of a podcast, not a byproduct, in my opinion. So the downloads are... The what?
Sorry, I thought you were done.
So I said the downloads are very, very important. The live, because Radio and TV, you cannot interact under the picking up the phone, and unless it's something sports or something like this, you don't really. So let's not take away from the download, because the downloads hold, in my opinion, a lot more weight than live. Yeah.
Amnon, you're absolutely right.
So a few good points in chat here. People are jumping in on this. So Donovan said, which I thought was a really good point. He said, to me, live streaming only draws numbers when it's something like gaming on Twitch TV. Otherwise, the numbers are in the downloads, which I agree with. If you're releasing your show after, right? Like, Andrew does What the Tech. He releases the show on the RSS 4 hours later. It's less enticing for people to watch it live. But now, for example, if Andrew didn't release that show, I guarantee you his live numbers would double, maybe even triple. If people knew that they could only watch that show at a set time, I'm sure his numbers would triple, because people have no other option. But
it still wouldn't be to the level that I get with that show.
It wouldn't still be to the level. But what Donovan's saying with Twitch TV, those broadcasts aren't really archived. You watch the person live, and then it's gone. There's no for most people, there's no after the show rerun. There's no throw it up on iTunes. Most people don't throw it up on YouTube. And then Movie Buff is saying live equals interactivity, which is a good point. I like doing it.
Right? I mean, look. I mean, you have a very active chat room. Everybody's participating. Everybody's talking about the topic.
Yeah. And whenever there's people in the chat for my show, I bring them into every time they bring up a good point. I bring them right into the show. That's one of the only reasons I do it live, because clearly the numbers aren't there, and I don't think the numbers are there for most people.
Say again, Steve.
I say interaction's extremely important, especially if you're doing something live. The majority of shows or calls I used to do on TalkShoe were brilliant when there was interaction from participation, contributions from everybody that was coming into the chat, even if they weren't on the phone or calling in. It was interacting. You were interacting with them. That's what made the live show. And quite often we'd only have, sort of 10 people in. But the downloads afterwards were in their hundreds, thousands sometimes. I used to blow my mind. How on earth, what would hundreds of people want to listen to me dribbling on about nothing?
Are you talking about the tech calls that we did?
Yeah, talks you not working, do you need help calls? I mean, it was just complete and utter nonsense. Unless we were helping somebody, we would talk about anything and everything. But the amount of downloads was just unbelievable.
It was so funny, because that's how Steve and I got to know each other. He would put up a call. Are you having trouble with TalkShoe? Join the call at whatever time. We'd get in there, and maybe one person would show up with a question. Then there was nothing else to be discussed. Then we would start talking about other things, and it would go on for hours. I mean, we covered the issues of the world. We covered politics and terrorism. We covered everything, and it was really funny, because somebody would call in and they'd sit there and listen a while and said, "Guys, I hate to interrupt the conversation, but I've got a technical question."
I used to spend about 16, 17 hours a day doing that. It was great fun.
And I never heard Steve get mad but one time, and I don't know how he held it off as long as he did.
Yeah, well, I burnt the candle at both ends and in the middle, and finally that there was none of the wick left, so I gave it up.
Yeah, I feel your pain.
So I've got a question for Andrew here. Andrew, are you still here?
Yes.
I am.
Okay, do you think it's important for somebody starting a podcast to do it live? Audio or video?
I don't know. That's a tough thing. I mean, it takes it. It's far more difficult. It's more likely you'll screw up if you do it live, and you can't really fix what you're doing. But it's a good way to learn to do a podcast with seeing people around you. So, if you have a chat room and people are in the chat, you're actually broadcasting to people. So in your mind, you're kind of more prepared to talk.
Okay, Andrew, you just hit on one of my new pet peeves.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of hypocritical on this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of podcast hosts, that is, people who record live,
mm-hmm.
are improperly integrating the chat room into the show.
All
I
right.
think you're right. Yeah.
Okay,
And-
Mike.
Now wait a minute, I'm not done. Case in point, there are ways, and of course I think Leo does almost everything right. And when Leo says, "I don't know what the answer to this question is," maybe somebody in the chat room knows. And then, of course, somebody will come along and say, "Oh yes, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5." Okay, well that's good. So Andrew Z from Queens says that it's this way, and I appreciate that input, Andrew. That's fine when you integrate it in a professional way. But often, too often, people will be talking and say, "Well, we're trying to figure out exactly when the date is." Oh yeah, that's right, Merle. We agree with that. Well, who the heck is Merle? I mean, nobody in listening to the recorded podcast is able to see the chat room. They don't know what's going on. So I think that the way to integrate the chat room is, I think it's another way of separating the amateurs from the pros. I think the way you integrate it is important. But let me say this to say that there are certain shows that are built around the chat room, like the Free for All, because Free for All totally violates this rule that I'm talking about, but to change it would be a mistake because that is the theme of the show. It's everybody getting together talking about everything. I'm curious, Andrew.
Yes.
And I don't care about numbers because I don't know what's good or what's bad, but with regard to the free-for-all being live and downloads, how popular are the downloads of the free-for-all versus other shows like what, the Tech and the other shows?
It's same kind of conversion, really. The live is a very small aspect to it, and then people download it.
So you're saying that the number of downloads you get for free-for-all are proportional to the number of downloads you get for the other shows?
It's yeah. So it's always like that. It's much more for the downloads than the live.
I mean, I don't know why anybody would download the free-for-all.
I don't know either.
In my opinion, the worst thing that you can do is if you've got a chat environment like we've got here, like TalkShoe have, is that the host ignores it. Or just picks out bits and pieces from it. They just sort of pick out a sentence from a conversation and then replies to it, but doesn't actually read out what was written. So, as Mike was saying earlier, you're only getting half a conversation. If you're going to have interaction, then you have to physically do that. You have to interact and allow the people that are listening that aren't part and parcel of the chat, certainly for later downloading and listening afterwards. They've got to know what you're talking about, why you're talking about it, and who that person is. And so many hosts forget to do that. They'll pick out bits and pieces, but not say, "Oh, Eifel's put a good comment here in the room," and then read it so everybody knows what it is. It's insane. It used to drive me nuts.
So before I leave, which I have to go,
No, you don't.
I do. I have to install a new capture card.
Oh, it's got to be done during the show.
You guys want to see it? Hold on.
Dum, 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 dum.
Look what I got.
Oh.
And the way that you're holding it is not very healthy.
Yeah, holding it.
What are they?
I like them too. These are AJA Kona 3G capture cards, SDI. So I'm going to install these today because AJA has released drivers that apparently work with Wirecast.
Woohoo.
So a couple months ago, about a year ago, I spent a lot of money and I ran SDI, all SDI cables from my basement, which I moved all my computers to the basement. I built a server rack and I put everything there, and I ran all the cables. I hook up the video card, the capture cards, and it doesn't work. So it took them a while, but they finally, according to them, they have fixed it. They have sent me beta drivers, and I'm the first to test it.
Lovely.
So you're gonna install this on a production machine to test?
Yeah, because I want to go over to this. I've had these cards sitting here. They're $3,000 capture cards each.
And what's going to happen is he's going to plug them in, and of course a couple of the channels aren't going to work because of static electricity damage, and then we're going to have to listen to Andrew whine about what garbage these cards are.
Why static electricity damage?
Because you held them with your fingers. You're not supposed to be touching the copper traces on those boards.
Why? So what?
We'll see.
What should I hold it with if I don't have fingers?
The
My
edge.
palms?
You'll find out.
You keep it in the bags they came in.
One of the cards is actually dead. They sent one dead DOA.
Another DOA?
No. I haven't gotten it yet. I'm getting the other one Monday.
It was probably okay when you got it, but when you took it out, it died.
Maybe it
Have you
was
heard
me.
of an earthing
what
strap
I'm
before, Andrew?
Yeah. So Dan says he's got new stuff arriving too. That's why he's probably got this Behringer X32 on his way.
Oh, there you go.
And then maybe he can do a video on how to set up an X32 for podcasting.
I'm a podcast
Oh.
expert.
Before you leave, Andrew,
Yeah.
something I was going to talk about a moment ago. There's a big discussion, and I'm sorry Merle left because he was asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
But there's discussion about what's called the podcasting lawsuit.
Yes.
A company called Personal Audio sued a number of podcasters, claiming that anyone podcasting was violating their patent that was granted in 2012. It was invented in 1996, supposedly, and granted in 2012, meaning that it's currently valid. The company, Personal Audio, sued. The ones that I remember are Adam
Carolla.
Carolla. Gosh, I keep confusing him with Adam Curry. Adam Carolla. They also sued a company called TogiNet, which I happen to be familiar with and have talked to the owner of the company in the past. They sued, howstuffworks.com?
Yeah.
Dan,
how stuff
which is
works. This
Discovery.
Yeah. And there was one other one. Who else? They previously sued Apple and supposedly got an $8 million out of court settlement with them. But they also apparently sued ABC, CBS, and NBC. Well, what happens when you sue someone, you file a complaint against them, telling them what you want the court to do for you. They file an answer saying, no, we didn't do it and we don't deserve to be sued. But they also file, usually, and would normally file, what's called a counterclaim. A counterclaim is, okay, you're suing me, I'm suing you. So Andrew sues me because my consulting services didn't solve his problem, and I countersue him for payment of the money he owes me. That's a two-way lawsuit. And somewhere along the way, then what happens is you go into the phase that's called discovery. And what discovery is that under a court order, I say, okay, Andrew, you don't want to pay me. I think you've already made money off my services. I deserve to be paid. I don't think your lawsuit has merit. So in discovery, I send requests for production of documents, and I want to see Andrew's tax returns for the last 7 years. I want to see any of his documentation, his QuickBooks, his accounting. I want to see how much money came in, not to his company, but how much money his wife made, how much money his dog Spencer has made. I want to see all these things because I don't think he's telling the truth. Well, at this point in time, it is now a two-way lawsuit. In this case, Andrew says, you know what? I only owe him $10,000. I'd rather pay him than argue with him. I got other things to do. I've got pills to take, alcohol to drink. And so he says, I'm just going to drop it. He then says to me, I'll tell you what, Mike, let's just call it even. I'm going to drop it. And I say, no, Andrew, because if we just drop it, then in essence, we haven't settled the controversy between us. And that is, you still think I owe you money, or I still think, whatever the case, I forget one example I use, but it doesn't fully settle the matter. So I'm not going to dismiss this suit. We're going to go ahead and go to court. And that is that he started out being the plaintiff, and now he's the defendant. But, of course, he has to go ahead with his suit as well. The documents that I read indicated that Personal Audio dropped the lawsuit against TogiNet. They dismissed it against How Stuff Works, maybe more. They contacted Adam Carolla and said, okay, you know what, we're going to drop the lawsuit against you. Adam Carolla, who countersued, to have two things that I saw. One is he wanted a declaratory judgment that he was not infringing the patent, and that is he wants the court to say, we've looked at these claims, you, Adam Carolla, are not infringing this patent. The other thing he sued for is a finding of invalidity, and that is they do a Markman hearing, and when they go through the claims and they once and for all determine that the patent is valid or it's not valid. Okay, there are, of course, risks associated with doing that, and that is if they find the patent's valid, now Carolla may owe them money. If they find it's invalid, then the company doesn't have the patent. They can't assert it against the major network. So it's kind of rolling the dice here by either side to continue this lawsuit, but Adam Carolla, who's been raising money to fund his fees, from what I understand, he hasn't had to pay anything. He's already raised like $460,000. He claims it's going to cost $1.5 million to continue the lawsuit, and that may be true. I don't believe he spent $450 yet. I don't know, but he very easily could be $1.5 million down by the time it's over with. But he said, no, I'm not going to drop the lawsuit. Well, if you go into some of the podcasting groups on the internet, like the Facebook groups and the others, you hear a lot of people who know absolutely nothing claiming and they know how this lawsuit is proceeding. They don't. There's this idiot person on one group who's talking about, well, Personal Audio decided to drop the lawsuit because they were losing, and they knew they were going to lose, and they didn't want to lose, so they went ahead and tried to drop the lawsuit. But they knew that Adam was going to win, so they just decided to go ahead and proceed. That's not what happened. What happened was, and this is the pivotal point I've been getting to, is that during the discovery phase, whenever the company said to these podcasters, we want to see your revenues for the last 3 years, when they got the numbers back, they saw how low they were and they lost interest. They knew that if they got a $3 million judgment against one of the defendants, that none of them would be able to pay it. That speaks volumes. All these people out there that claiming they're making millions of dollars podcasting or $500,000 podcasting, they're either idiots or they're liars. Yeah, there are very, very few people making money podcasting, and it's a tough thing. I mean, it's hard work, isn't it, Andrew?
It's a lot of hard work to be able to kind of make money doing this.
And they never went after Leo, huh?
Not yet. Somebody told me.
For a while, Leo was talking about them getting ready for it, like in between shows.
Apparently, they got a letter. They got some letter.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel that Leo would take him, would go do similar to what Adam Carolla is doing.
Well, who was telling me? Because I don't listen to Leo's shows unless Andrew's on there, but. Someone was telling me that Leo was commenting that he was under instructions from his attorney not to discuss the lawsuit.
I think that was true.
And indicating that maybe he had orchestrated some sort of an agreement or settlement with them. I'm not sure.
Or it could have been that he was under the radar and he didn't want to rile these people up.
He was on the radar. Every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern.
I mean, if you notice, we didn't really get into it that much on the IIB either.
Well, what I would suggest, though, is that if Adam Carolla loses and the patent is upheld, then I'm thinking that these guys who charge $1,000 to be in the room with them, and maybe some of these guys who are the top 3 podcasters in the world, and maybe even guys claiming to make $1 million a month, maybe they ought to be part of the lawsuit.
Listen, if you're claiming you're making $1 million a month doing a podcast, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
All right, I got to run.
All right, Andrew, thank you.
Keep it buzzing.
Bye-bye for now.
919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. I was going to say something. I forgot. Never mind.
Okay, and we're back.
Listen to this, all you that have problems with the fans on the computers. The Silent Power PC, got nothing to do with Apple, is claimed to be the first high-end PC able to ditch noisy electric fans in favor of fully passive cooling. In place of a conventional fan, the unit uses an open-air metal foam heatsink that boasts an enormous surface area thanks to an open weave copper filaments of which it's composed. The Silent Power creators, that's what it's called, Silent Power, claim that the circulation of air through the foam is so efficient in dissipating heat that the exterior surface temperature never rises above 50 Celsius, 122 Fahrenheit in normal use. Nick, what is your computer running? What is CPU running in normal use?
Let me look. I'll tell you right now.
Somewhere around the 70, 80s.
Let me look. Currently, my
This
CPU. Oh wait, Fahrenheit?
Yeah,
No.
No,
Mine's
no.
always higher.
it's 122. It must be higher than that.
Yeah, no, mine's currently at about 50 Celsius, 120-ish Fahrenheit.
That's fairly cool.
Yeah,
It
that
fairly
is.
cool. I have the air conditioner on, so it is fairly cool.
Oh,
But it is
This
75
does-
degrees in here, so I mean it's not.
but that's nice. I saw a
But I
picture
do
of
also
it.
have a fan blowing into the computer.
Yeah,
It does look like a very futuristic design,
Right.
but it has a couple of flaws. Well, there's bound to be more than a couple, but there's two that spring to mind instantly. Is what the hell's going to happen when it gets clogged with dust? How are you going to clear it? You can't get a can of compressed air and blow it out because it's so fine. It's like hair, isn't it? It's just
yeah, it
gonna
is like
clog up
hair.
something terrible.
But you know, it's not going to be it's not going to get clogged as fast because there's no fan to move a lot of air through it. So I don't know.
The other aspect is if you've got a cat, you're done for, aren't you? Because it always goes and lays on top of the computer because
Yeah.
it's nice and warm. If it goes and lays on top of that
True.
mesh foam, it's flattened, therefore no heat sink anymore.
True. So maybe they're going to have to put a filter for the heatsink for the cool.
They'll have to put a box over it just to stop the cat from laying on it.
Yeah.
I like the design of it. It does look. I think copper does look really nice when it's crafted, and that really did look impressive.
Bloop, bloop.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Uh-oh.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, and it's your speakers are too loud. Your speakers are too loud. And you actually need to turn the sound off of your on the web.
Well, I don't have my speakers on, so.
Well, where is it coming back from?
Are you on a
Not
mixer?
a clue. I just had my headset on.
Are you
Who are
on
talking
Mike, talk to him.
Who are we talking to?
Dan.
Okay. Do you are you working through your mixer?
Yeah.
Do you have Mix Minus set up, or are you feeding the audio back to the Hangout?
No, I set it up the way you had me set it up, Mike. Don't
Now,
really
see,
understand
you
what's
do it
going on. I
blatantly.
do hear double tracking.
It sounds like you've got do you have the speaker turned on for on the web? You should only be listening to us through Skype, not through you should not have the audio turned on
Right.
with the web. You need to mute the speaker on the web.
On the bottom right of the video, there's a volume, and you need to mute that.
Anyway, it's not too bad. What's up?
He did it.
Well, I was calling in for Movie Buff. He asked me to do that on the chat.
No, he didn't do it.
I'm still trying to figure out this.
Dan, are you watching us?
How about now?
Check.
Is that better?
Seems to be. What'd you do?
I did what Amnon said. I dropped the slider on the.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what Mike was asking you to do when he said on the web.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think, but nothing happens.
Yeah, that's it.
Been there, done that.
So hello, Movie Buff. Apparently, Movie Buff couldn't call in, so I'm here, and I'm trying to think of a question to ask. Mike hit on a pretty good subject earlier, but I forget what the hell it was now. It had to do with settings on the. My gosh.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What's motivated you to change from the X1204 mixer to an X32? That's a pretty big jump.
All right, here's the deal. Here's the problem. You're very logical and frugal, and I'm very frivolous and anal. And so that's my first problem. The second thing is I bought this what we have here in Yuma is a lot of dust, and it just drives me crazy. So I went out and bought this over-the-top filtrated cabinet rack, and I want to have everything mounted in it. Well, I got the 1204 mounted in it. You may recall that from the video when you helped me set this up. But you take that 1204 and you mount it in a rack. I mean, you're taking up like 6 RU. All right. So the X32 is a nice rock mountable unit. I think it's like a 3 RU space saver. So frankly, it's really so I can go completely have all my gear in this rack, close the door, and it's completely forced air ventilated, and it's a very clean install. I will not use the capabilities of that thing on the order of more than maybe 10-15%, because I'll continue to use a MiG Pre, you know which one I have. And I got the drummer coming in. I'll probably use that as my gate, and that I will probably have mounted on the desk, because as soon as I open up the door to the rack unit, I'll catch the 4 fans that are controlling the temperature with the door open, and that would be self-defeating. So I'll have the only unit I'll have on my desk would be the gate, the drummer, and then the X32, the MiG Pre, the Telos IP is on my shopping list for later this year, and then I'll have a Mac Mini stuffed inside of a Mac Mini server, which is a 1 RU, and it will slave to a SSD PCIe 1T terabyte storage card, and everything else will go to box for storage. So I probably over-answered your question, but that's where I'm at.
Well, I have a question, though. I mean, do you leave your doors and windows open, or are you air-conditioned all the time?
Air-conditioned, a very pristine environment, but the thing is, here in Yuma, Arizona, the dust is so fine that it's almost like talcum powder, and it just gets into everything. I've lost a TV because of it. I have an NEC monitor that I had to take apart, and you wouldn't believe the amount of crap that was in there. It's a real issue here. I mean, I got to clean out my Mac Pro. I have a conventional Tower Mac Pro still sitting on the floor, and that thing it's like that static electricity helps collect that dust, and it really bakes onto attaches to the components and heats up everything. And, I also like the idea of just taking one plug out of the wall and roll the entire rack out of the room and clean the room and stick it back in, because everything is self-contained in the rack at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Air compressor.
I'm sorry?
Air compressor.
Yeah, that's a great way to blow dirt into the sliders. But
yeah,
I would think,
I have,
though, where you
I
are,
have
because
compressed air.
I've heard you talk about this dust problem before, I would think that the local HVAC guy would have a way in your community to put what's called positive pressure on the room, such that instead of dust getting into your house, it actually takes filtered air, blows it into the room, creates positive pressure, and whatever leaks you have on the doors and windows, that it would be pushing air out of the room instead of bringing dusty air into the room.
Well, I've looked into a new filtration system for the home, and it's very costly, and it is something that would really improve it, especially the newer rigs. I mean, this home is 1980s virgin, and I did have the AC replaced, but a lot of people in my area, even the neighbors, have a better system, but it's, you're looking at about $8,000-9,000 to change that out and put that positive pressure system in. It's quite expensive. This is, I mean, there are some feature sets on the X32 that appeal to me, but do I need it? No. Just like I said up on the IAIB, it's markedly overkill, but I really do like the form factor more than anything. And like you say, once you get the system set up, you're not going to touch it. If anything, I'll be twiddling with the gate externally, and for changing conditions in the room, neighbors or whatever, and that'd be about it. But my goal was to have everything self-contained.
I saw your pictures, and I don't know if you took those pictures. I mean, obviously, when you take pictures and put things up, you take good care of it, but the pictures that Dan posted, the place looks like a show place. I mean, it is spick and span. I mean, no cords and cables laying all over the place. No magazines all over. I mean, it's beautiful the way he has it set up. But actually, Nick was going to ask you some questions, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Sure, Nick.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What are you currently doing a show?
No, I'm a slow learn and a slow build, but I am working right now on some of the legal stuff, and I was going to be probably hitting Mike up for that at some point. But I purchased in a few domains, and need to get a website built, and I'm still working on a third guest.
Okay, I just
was
interested.
Yeah. So I was, and I think I mentioned it on the IAB, or this is just in a thought, that I hope to go live in the end of fourth quarter, or more realistically, probably in the first quarter, because once I get that Telos system in, that'll probably be that's a piece of change even for me. I think if I recall, it's almost $2,000 just for that one box.
What are you buying?
And
what Telos box are you buying?
the IP1.
I don't know what that is.
It's their new one that basically goes over the IP network versus standard codec.
You're talking about a phone interface or a point-to-point IP codec, or what?
A Telos IP1.
ZIP1.
Is that using SIP or is it using Asterix?
I don't know. I'm too green on that.
It's a much simpler question. You're getting it to accomplish what?
Have a cleaner internet Skype interface.
So it's for audio.
Telephone interface.
I don't know. I don't know what the ZIP1 does.
The ZIP1, you have to have a ZIP1 on both sides, and then you use the ZIP1 to communicate back and forth. I don't believe
it's a codec for point to point. I mean, who's going to be on the other end?
Yeah, you have to have two.
One of my key guests, the other person I'm working with.
Oh, okay. So that means you have to have two boxes.
Right. Well, I'm not paying for the other one. Yeah, this is another guy in the Phoenix area that has an established broadcast.
So, Dan, this is going to sound like a stupid question. I don't want this to come off the wrong way. But is there any reason that you're buying the equipment, spending a lot of money on the equipment before doing the show instead of doing it and then building up the equipment once you've started it?
No, not really. My son and I share some of this gear. So he's a professional musician, plays in a band, and has a couple of CDs out. And so some of the gear I have is considerably more than you'd need for podcasting. In fact, a lot more than you'd need. And so really, there's nothing I've purchased yet that isn't being cross-pollinated to my son when he's here doing some recording, including the X32. It'd give him more utility than it would me, as well as this over-the-top Mic Pre. So really, the only thing that I feel on the fence about would be the Telos.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I am kind of homebound because of some medical issues, so I don't get out a lot. So this is kind of, you know, serves as a hobby. And I think I'm at my anniversary date for 1 year on this, but I'm not even sure it'll work. You know, I'm still talking with two people as to what can we bring to the table that hasn't been done, you know, at least 1,000 times before. Mm-hmm. And as everyone I think agrees, that's the hard point or the hard part of this. And you know, I think people like Andrew and others who have the, you know, I do believe Donovan, including Donovan, they have the knack. They have a knack to this sort of thing, and they come across in a way that's very appealing. And I'm not even sure we'll be able to do that. But I probably won't be the most entertaining member of the group, but I'll be at least the pivot man on some of the on the control of the show anyway. So
it sounds like you have a lot of passion for it, which is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, the passion's there. If I pod fade and everything had to go belly up, you know, my son would probably buy out my gear and take it over to Scottsdale and put it back in his studio, and that'd be it. But so far, it's been a progressive thing. You know, it kind of it'll go, and then all of a sudden it will kind of fade out, and I won't, you know, acquire any more equipment or pursue it any further, because I'm still on the sidelines watching how other people do this stuff. And I was guilty in the beginning of watching others online that you talked about earlier and seeing how they approach the craft. And I think at this point I at least know the things not to do, aside from, you know, buying this gear that is, you know, a little bit boutique level per se.
Well, there's no harm in loving gadgets as well.
So I don't know if I'd answered your question there, Nick, but
no, you did. You definitely did.
Well,
yeah, I
are
mean,
you excited,
was,
Dan, that you can spend $1,000 just to be near your hero?
No, now that I haven't done. I mean, you are the only person that I've contacted and to get the 1204 USB hooked up, and it was quite helpful. And you know, I in fact I made mention of that on the IAIB that you know, without a resource like the IAIB, I wouldn't be doing this. Because it was just too much of a kind of like an enigma. I didn't know, you know, podcasting, you know, what it really entailed, and you know, who's really into it, and what I did learn is that it's a rather niche, or how do you pronounce it, Mike? Niche or something?
Two ways. It's either a niche or a niche.
Niche. Yeah, I caught that. I had to put it on my Bill O'Reilly Word of the Week list here. I just tipped my side there. But yeah, I just now learning that this is something that's really interesting. And after I got over the excitement of learning about podcasting, then I started listening to a lot of broadcast, which I find even more interesting. And the discussion about download versus live was very interesting to me, because I prefer the live because of the interactivity. But I don't know, I think I ran off the rails again.
No, I agree with you. I don't want to go too deep into this, but I do. I subscribe to several podcasts, but I only listen to about 2 or 3 of them. So there are about probably 8 or 10 people who are reporting me as a weekly or daily or whatever download. And unfortunately, even though I download it, I never listen to it. And those that have advertising in them, when I'm listening and an ad comes up, I skip ahead. So anyway, just keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about what sort of an impact you're having. But I agree with you, particularly when I'm listening to a live podcast, a political podcast that is not live, and someone will say something that's totally wrong or stupid, which happens often, and you just want to go and chat and say, no, it was not the A, it was B, but you can't. I mean, it's over and done. It's in the past. That's really frustrating. It's I really enjoy listening to live shows, but you know, I don't like the shows that are live where they pay no attention to the chat room, or they don't acknowledge it, or they don't interact with the audience. I mean, that's as bad as network television. They're up on their
well, I agree, and you made a
can't
comment
reach them.
earlier
To me,
about some of how to work the chat where it's where the community actually feels part of it, and I think you mentioned one of the popular guys that does it well, and there are others where unless you're in the there's one show, and I like the guy, I like the host, but unless you're an active podcaster, you're kind of looked down on. So they won't recognize you in the chat because you're just kind of like almost like you're not worthy. So, you know, the distinction between the two is quite dramatic. It's like, well, this guy doesn't have a live show. He's not really one of us. So we'll just keep this between us girls and talk about this subject because we're all pros here. And that's the inference I get from this particular podcaster. And so, I don't even know if they realize they're doing that, but
well, they do. That's the big complaint I have against Leo Laporte, because his chat room, and granted, it's out of control. I mean, they have to try to maintain some level of order there, because it'll be off the rails in a heartbeat. But some of the admins in his, one in particular, in his chat room is just, he's insane. And when I was actually starting to listen to Leo's show and watch his show 2 or 3 years ago, I was logged into the chat room, and Leo said something that was, I mean, it was just very profound. It was excellent, and I made some comment about way to go, Leo, or something like that. And the mod came back and said to me, okay, that's enough of that. And I kind of hesitated. I said, what did I do? He said, if you question us, you're going to be kicked from the chat room. And I said, let me help you with that. And I left and haven't been back, except once when Andrew was on. We were harassing him. That's where you can take a resource and chase people away from your show if you don't manage it correctly.
Yeah, because the chat people, I think, are instrumental to how well the show goes. I mean, you're looking for viewership or participation, and I think we do a pretty good job here. You know, I can't remember, but once here in the last 6 months where somebody was rude, you know, and it was caught, and they took heat, and it was over in your neck of the woods, I think, Steve.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, that's the whole idea in my mind, is if you want interaction, and let's face it, that's the whole idea of a podcast. Otherwise, it just becomes a preaching show. Right. Then you have to interact with it. I mean, it's pointless otherwise, because you just remove the chat room. If you don't want to interact with people and have people contribute by phone or Skype or whatever else, there's no point having it.
Yes, and yeah, it's very, very important. But anyway, that was my 2 cents. I'm not really sure. Maybe Movie Buff was having some audio issues more than me to call in. But now that I got this slider down, how is this audio coming through?
Fine. What microphone are you on?
RE20.
Well, I'm not sure you're on the RE20. You need to look in your Hangout and make sure you have the RE20 selected because you sound like you're on a webcam mic.
Okay.
You're on Skype?
Right.
All right, go to your mic. Of course, you're on a Mac. I don't know where it is, but there's a setting in there where you select select the microphone input, and you need to double check that because one thing we learned about Skype a long time ago, at least the Windows version, is that there is an order of preference. If you have like an internal microphone, but then you add other microphones, you select that microphone. When you come back into Skype, it may go back to the default microphone. The Windows version has a list that prioritizes which microphone will be selected, and it will select the first one that works. Quite often that's the wrong microphone. Under the Windows version, it's Tools, Options, Audio Settings. I think in the Mac version, it's just under, I don't remember, Audio Settings something, but it's where you select the microphone, and I don't even think it has a VU meter there, but it would be curious to know which microphone you have selected. Now, having said that, if you have the RE20 selected, you're way too far away from it.
Okay. How about now?
You should be about 3 inches away from it.
I am.
All right, talk to us.
I'm about 3 inches away right now.
Yep.
And
now that sounds much better.
Within Skype preferences, it's under USB audio codec.
Yeah.
And that's how it's picking it up.
Tap the RE20 with your finger. Tap the microphone. Yep, you're definitely on the RE20.
Yeah. That was a pretty good diagnostic.
Well, I have Andrew's asking a good question for a change. Did you dial into the phone number, or are you calling Computers 2K Voice?
He's calling Computers 2K on the phone number.
On the phone number.
That would explain.
Well,
That's
no
the problem.
Yeah, no wonder.
All right.
But
What
that's
was
fine.
the-
I mean, as long as we know what it is. If it were a Skype to Skype connection, it would be horrible.
So what should I have done?
Instead of dialing, you dialed the 518 number, right?
Whatever number's at the header of the page.
You need to connect to Computers 2K Voice.
On Skype, just a Skype to Skype call.
Yeah. Go ahead and try it. Hang up and call in just so.
All right. I'm out.
Okay.
Where are you going, Steve?
Oh, sorry, I had to bring my mouse back to the microphone muter jobby. What's it? I've got a prearranged appointment.
Well, you need to get your schedule coordinated better.
Well, unfortunately, it's with somebody that's in China, and it's going to be 11 p.m. there, so I don't really want to jump on them at midnight
now?
because they'll probably be blurry-eyed and legless.
Right.
All right. Hear me? Well, thank you for joining us.
That's
Have a good week,
okay.
Steve.
Take care, Steve.
We'll speak to you next week. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
All right, Dan, talk to us.
All right.
Oh,
How's this?
jeez.
Night
Why
and
did
day.
you call in on the phone?
What's that?
Why did you call in on the phone the first time?
I don't know. I think it's. I have no idea. I clicked. You know, when you go into Skype on the Mac, you have two options to click the phone number, which I have you guys in my address book, and I just clicked the wrong icon.
Oh, there you go. You sound much
Well, let me
better
say
now.
just before I go,
Fine.
Dan, you sound like a human being now.
Oh, okay. What did I sound like before?
I don't say.
Robot.
We're not allowed to. The Queen would be most upset.
Okay, so now am I over-modulating since I cranked things up and got, right into the grill?
Nope, sounds perfect to me.
In fact,
Okay.
your room acoustics are not good.
I know.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
Slowly.
Yeah, it's I got a audio mute pad up, but and then to make things worse, I have a corner desk.
Well,
And-
all that stuff adds up, but the bottom line is when you're doing what's called close miking, that is when you're working a microphone from 3 inches away, which is what most podcasters should be doing as long as they're not regularly popping the microphone, and as much as I love the ATR 2100 AT2005, if you get too close to them, they will overload and they will pop. But you don't need to be that close to them. But in your case, with the RE20, which has significant pop protection built into it, you should be no further than 3 inches away, 4 inches tops away from the microphone. And if in doing that you still have some room noise, you really ought to focus on getting some sort of sound treatment. Not go overboard, but some sort of sound treatment.
Yeah, I got sound treatments on the menu. Again, I can't hang a blanket like I see a lot of folks do, because that would just it goes back to the dust issue, and it just becomes an electrostatic magnet. And so I do have some panels.
Hey, in my opinion, this is great if you can do that, because then you can take the blanket will catch all the dust, and you can take the blanket out once every so often and shake it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because a blanket is not really good sound treatment. And
a quilt.
Well, listen to me.
Yeah.
Sound. I just had this very discussion with a buddy of mine who knows more about sound treatment than I do. He's an engineer, but he's not a sound guy. But he just spent a mega money to get a home theater, and he's got a beautiful home with, just it'd make you sick knowing what he spent. He's got 4K projector and all that stuff. No. But he went in and had the entire room professionally sound treated, took it all down and replaced it because he didn't like the way it looked. And anyway, he in putting up this sound treatment. In fact, this is the guy I was telling you about, Amnon, who has some materials that he's probably going to give us that we're going to put up. But what happens is that a lot of people will hang curtains, or they'll hang felt or cloth or whatever as sound treatment, and they'll find out that it really doesn't work that well. And the reason why is because it is a lot more difficult to prevent reflections in the mid-range, that is in the 400 to 1000 hertz region, and even more so below 400 hertz, or below probably 150, which would be called the base region. Those reflections are more difficult to suppress, and a blanket or a piece of cloth hanging as a curtain, it's not going to do much to suppress the low frequencies. It'll really kill the high frequencies, but the average voice, particularly the male voice, is not so rich in high frequencies. So a lot of times people put up these blankets and things, and they don't get a really good result, and they wonder why. And the reason why is because the sound acoustical treatment is frequency sensitive, and the materials they're using are not that efficient at those frequencies. But we're not going to get into all that again for two reasons. One,
Mike, if the blanket is not stretched on the wall but is bunched up, aren't the ripples in it what absorbs and causing the sound not to get back to the mic?
I would argue that yes and no. For example, Amnon, is that if you were to put up a screen door, that'll keep flies out, but it won't keep out a flashlight.
Right.
Okay. All right. Certain things just go right through it, and at certain frequencies, it doesn't matter whether it's rippled or what, it just doesn't have the ability to prevent the reflection. Now, if you were to do some testing, and again, the thing I was going to say a while ago is someone who knows what they're talking about would call me an idiot for some of this stuff, but it's reasonably correct. I'm not an acoustical person. But what happens is that if you were to, for example, take a curtain and spread it out flat, do a frequency test, and then take that same curtain and bunch it up, I suspect, my guess would be that not only would the reflections be reduced, but the frequency at which the reflections are effectively reduced would probably be reduced at least a little bit. But at the lower frequencies where the curtain is not effective, that folding of the rippling of the curtain is not going to make any difference.
Okay.
Any
Unlike
difference now?
More
Any
rigid
difference
materials
on the
that
echo?
are...
Wait, guys, one at a time.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just asking, is there any difference in the echo now, or is it the same?
Oh, I don't know. It sounds about the same. We're listening through a Hangout, so the audio is not
Yeah.
good. But
Sounds
okay.
the same to me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get off here so other people can jump in. But I called for Movie Buff. I guess he wanted to tweak his system, and I was just taking the invitation. So I appreciate the feedback, and that's where I'm at, Nick. So that's some of the gear I'm buying, and that's for the reason, like I said, my son will probably end up getting a heck of a lot more use out of this if I don't decide to stick with it. But for the interim, it seems to be a pretty clean config, at least theoretically. I have no idea how this X32 is going to work. I don't think anybody else on the forum has one yet.
The X32 is the Behringer board, right?
Right. The
Mike
rack
Myers has
version,
one.
not the tabletop.
Oh.
but it's
I
the
know-
same technology.
Yeah, Mike Myers has the X32.
And like Nick, he's an audio expert, so he'll be glad to help you with it.
Are you familiar with it, Nick?
Who? I'm sorry?
You, Nick.
No, I don't have it. Mike Myers has it.
Oh, Mike. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I understand some of it has quite a few of the same feature sets, but it's a lot of menus, and you only have one or two knobs there to step through everything. But I don't plan to do any onboard processing with it. At least that's not my intention. So once I set it up and have the iPad interface to control, where I don't have to open up the cabinet all the time, the only other external I'll have would be the gate. That'll be it.
Well,
But,
enjoy, and we'll be anxious to hear how it goes. When you get the X32 set up, I'll probably have some questions for you.
I may have some for you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, good.
Right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Take care, Dan.
I know.
Bye. 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And let's see over here. Job interviews missed. Work and wedding plans disrupted. Children unable to fly home with their adoptive parents. All this disruption is due to an outage involving the passport and visa processing database at the U.S. State Department. Now listen to this. The problem have been going since July 19th. And the best estimate for repair is, quote unquote, soon. The system crashed shortly after maintenance. What is going on? Can't they roll back the maintenance the maintenance patch or whatever I don't understand this. When something happens,
Who is this? Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about the State Department.
Oh,
Oh, okay. All right, Mike.
let's get back to something important.
Amazing.
Rudy wants to know, can you start a podcast in English even when that's not your native language? Rudy, absolutely. I mean, you decide what your objective is, who your target audience is. If it's an English-speaking world, if your English is good enough that people can understand you, then absolutely. But I mean, there are plenty of people podcasting who English is their first language, and it's hard to understand what they're talking about. So absolutely. But I would argue it's interesting that this question comes up at this point in time, because as anyone who, I'm sorry about my throat, I don't know what's going on here, but as anyone who's been around for a while knows, I am a music fan, and I'm interested in things that probably only 2 or 3 other people in the world might be interested in. For example, when I hear a song that I particularly like, and I hear a guitar part in that song that I particularly like, I then start researching to find out who the guitar player was on the recording session. It's not always a band member. It could be anyone, a studio musician, a guest participant. It could be anyone. Well, last night, my son and his fiance came over, and for some reason, I don't know how I got there, but I started listening to this song by, you won't remember it. It's called, actually you might because it was in a movie. It's called Hooked on a Feeling by Blue Swede. Swede. It starts out hookah chaka, hookah chaka, hookah. I mean, it was in a movie, and I forget the name of the movie, but it was not too long ago. But anyway, it's strange because my son and his fiance, my son's 27 or 28, I forget which, it changes every year, and his fiance is a couple of years younger. They both knew the song. So I listened to it, and I said, oh, that was great. But then out of curiosity, because the lead singer of the song is just extraordinary. I mean, it's just excellent, the delivery he did. So then I noticed on YouTube that there was a live version. All right, we'll see. We'll watch him lip sync. Well, I played the live version. It was on a television show. And not only were the vocals live, but the instruments were played live. Well, since the mixture or the mixing of the instruments between the live version and the recorded version are different, you could hear the guitar part much better. And as I listened to it for the third or fourth time and listened to the guy playing guitar, he's just awesome. I mean, not so much the Van Halen sort of gymnastics playing, but just the way he interpreted the song, the little tonic notes or the notes he put in. I just thought it was great. So I went on the internet, and this is the part where I do the weird stuff, trying to find out who played guitar on the record. Was the guy who played it live with him the same guitar player? Well, I spent about half an hour researching that, and finally I found what I think, first thing is almost impossible to find out who the guitar player was. Well, then I found out who was credited with playing guitar for the group, and found out that whoever this guy is on Wikipedia is now in a band in Sweden. I found a website for the band. Then there was an email address for a contact with the band. About midnight last night, I sent out this email to this general catch-all email box on the website, thinking I'll never hear from them again. I get up this morning, and I got an answer from the guy who apparently owns the group that this guy's playing with. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but his English is not so good. But what caught my attention is he says, "Hello, Mike. It's nice to hear from you, and it would be interesting to know how you have noticed Mick's name and some of his music career." SOM. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I guess SOME. And as, why are you asking me this question is the English translation. So what that doing is, Rudy, that gets back to the interpretation. If your English is good enough that you can communicate particularly with us Southern boys and we can understand what you're talking about, I'd say go for it. If your English is not good enough, which I think yours is because you're writing real well, heck, you may even be English, but your English seems excellent. And so I would say that you do it and be patient and work and do whatever you can to pick up an audience. And Jerry Lee Lewis saw some clips about the Wrecking Crew, and in fact, the Wrecking Crew is probably the single most interesting group to research as to who played what on certain songs, and we've talked about them before with people like Glenn Campbell, Tommy Tedesco, Joe Osborne, Larry Knechtel, Hal Blaine, and on and on and on and on. And it's a fabulous group. There's a movie that will be out, and I'm sure we'll talk about it when it's released. And by the way, while we're off topic, Leon Russell said he had no idea what he played on. My understanding is that Leon Russell doesn't remember when he went to the studio half the time. But what an extraordinary piano player. By the way, Jerry Lee Lewis, I don't know whether you know the song Monster Mash by Bobby Boris Pickett. It was a hit 3 separate times over history. Leon Russell was playing piano on that. And 100,000 other songs. Larry Knechtel was playing the piano on Bridge Over Troubled Water for Simon and Garfunkel. He was also the guitar player for David Gates and Bread. He also played keyboards for Dixie Chicks, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on. We'll do a show about music one day and not upload it to YouTube so we don't get a takedown notice.
Right. But I want to go back to Rudy's question about the English and all that. Rudy, there is actually a benefit for doing one not in your native language. You can get away with a lot. Mike is not saying a thing.
Well, it goes back to what I said. There are a whole lot of people, English is the first language that you can't understand what they're talking about.
Mike, listen to this thing. In the months and weeks leading to a referendum vote that would have established a locally owned fiber network in 3 small Illinois cities, Comcast and SBC, now AT&T, bombarded residents and city council members with disinformation, exaggerations, and outright lies to ensure the measure failed. The series of 2-sided postcards painted municipal broadband as a foolhardy endeavor, unfit for adults, responsible people, and perhaps is not something a smart woman would do. Municipal fiber was a gamble, a high wire act, a game something as scary as a ghost. Why build a municipal fiber network, one asked, when internet service is already offered by 2 respectable private businesses? In the corner, in tiny print, each postcard said paid for by SBC or paid for by Comcast. This is sounds like terror tactics, but I guess there's nothing you can do about this, right?
So I mean, yeah, that's the way of the world now. I mean, that's the way we do our political races here in the United States. We make up things, and there seems to be no accountability. And the only thing that I can say is that ignorance is fixable, stupid is forever.
You can't fix
I don't
stupid.
know what to tell you. People who don't want to know the truth and don't want to investigate, and I'm not saying that because of my political bent and what's been done to people who believe the way that I do, but I'm saying it about my own side. Amnon, you and I were having discussions earlier in the week about some things that are going on in the world, and particularly whenever we're talking about the events that are going on between Israel and Hamas. And certainly I agree with one side more than the other. But even then, whenever one side will say, well, the other side did this, I'm starting to ask, well, how do you know that? Well, I saw it on the news. Oh, my God, that is not a way to know. You don't know. If you saw it on the news, you don't know. And what really motivated me to start digging a little deeper than I normally do anyway is because there is a guy who does a podcast. It's a recorded podcast. He does a talk show. Very few people have heard of him or listened to him, but I very much enjoy what he talks about. He is extremely, extremely one-sided in his view towards this conflict. And in some of his comments about how big of a dog the other side is are I think, irresponsible. He's making things that, in other words, he's speaking in absolutes. This side is absolutely wrong, and this side is absolutely right. Not so. Neither side is pure as the driven snow. Both sides have vulnerabilities. They admit to that. Both sides admit to their indiscretions and their mistakes. But whenever someone says, "Oh no, he's absolutely wrong, he's absolutely right," you have to question their objectivity. So I start digging into these things, and how does that relate to what you're talking about, Amnon? I would like to know who sent those postcards out. What was their motivation? I agree with the warning, follow the money. Who's going to stand to lose money? That's what it's all about. Yep. It's not about ego, it's about money. And until there becomes a legal and effective way to fight back and counteract these, I mean, I almost just fell into my own trap. These consumer terroristic tendencies, until we find a way to fight back, we're going to be subject to them. Unfortunately, these things work.
I mean, there's nothing there that's saying whether it failed or not, but
right, and it really doesn't matter. But it's, I mean, that's community organizer terroristic type things. It's just a problem.
Why'd you pause?
What?
Why did you pause there?
I got distracted.
Okay. It's all right. The internet domain name for a country doesn't belong to that country, nor to anyone, according to ICANN. Plaintiffs who successfully sued Iran, Syria, and North Korea as sponsors of terrorism want to seize the three countries' CC-TLDs, the country code top-level domains, as part of financial judgments against them. The Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, which oversees the Internet, says they can do that because the TLDs aren't even property. So I remember when, I mean, if they're not property and they don't belong to a country and all that, I remember when people were looking for the .tv. .tv is not really for television.
No, of course not.
The country.
It's a country. Tivoli, something like that. And they were making money from that. So if it's not theirs, how can they make money from it?
But if you think about it, Amnon, if you bought a domain name, you wouldn't have to pay a renewal every year. You're renting it. You don't own it.
Right.
You're renting it.
Correct.
But you're talking about at a higher level as to whether a country, does .ca belong to Canada? No, they're given authority over it until and unless ICANN decides to take it away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't own it. If they owned it, you couldn't take it away from them.
So these people who are trying to sue and to seize them, should they sue ICANN and say, you need to take it away? I mean, you know.
These are what are called cases of first impression. This issue did not exist 20 years ago. There's not 20 years of law to say what the answer to your question is. It's going to have to go to court and be decided. And it's like the podcasting lawsuit. Winning may not be a good thing, and losing may be worse than you anticipated. You don't know yet. The law is very slow to keep up with technology. There are a lot of things in technology that have never yet been litigated, and when they do, boy, people are going to be screaming to the highest heavens.
Like what?
Well, I don't know. We don't know what the issues are yet. Well, example, a Houston woman has filed a $123 million lawsuit against Facebook and a former friend who posted a picture of her on an imposter Facebook profile under her name. The complaint was filed on July 25th, and it says that photographs that depict the true face of the plaintiff were altered with Photoshop and attached to false, phony, naked body shops, and at least one pose where there is the plaintiff in a graphic, pornographic-like photo. These phony photos falsely and maliciously depicted plaintiff in a clearly derogatory and false light as some overly bold and overly aggressive sexual person, which the plaintiff, in fact and truth, is not. Now let's throw this open for discussion. Is this a legitimate lawsuit? Now forget the $123 million, forget that.
Who is she suing?
She's suing Facebook and the poster of the photoshopped image.
Well, I don't see how it's Facebook's fault.
Well, let me ask you this question. Now, I'm just kicking this around. I just read this. I don't have an opinion on it yet. I'm formulating one. Let's suppose that someone did this to you, Nick, and posted it on Facebook and then canceled their account.
Who? Facebook canceled their account, or the person that posted it canceled their account?
The person that posted it.
Okay.
It's there. It's forever. Does Facebook have any responsibility to take it down?
Well, Facebook does have the responsibility to take it down if you I believe if you go to the police with it, I believe they have the right to take it down. But no, I don't see.
I haven't heard that.
What?
I haven't heard that.
Well, I can speak from firsthand experience where that happened.
You know someone who went to the police and had something
Yes.
taken down on Facebook.
Yes.
Tell as much as you can without giving.
I can tell as much as I can. I don't believe this is a private story. I'm not going to use any specifics. There's a teacher at my high school who a bunch of students, a nice teacher, generally people like him, and a group of students who liked him created a Facebook page just messing around using pictures of him that they found on the internet. He went to the police and got the Facebook profile totally taken down, and those and that was it. But he did successfully get it taken down by going to the police.
Okay, I think there's more to the story than that, because the police per se have no authority over Facebook.
Yes, I'm aware that the police can't just take stuff off Facebook, but
they can't even ask Facebook to take it down.
Well, they did in that respect.
Well, they can't. I mean, I suspect what happened, and I don't know. You know, I don't know. Because, and I've said it here, and you guys know me. Everything that's reported at the first superficial level is usually not the whole story. And my guess would be that if I had a son or daughter involved in that debacle, and I found out the police were getting involved, my son or daughter would immediately be responsible for taking that down. It would not require any involvement at all with Facebook. I can totally assure you. But then again, let's consider the hypothetical. Just play it for what it's worth. Let's suppose that the police send a letter to Facebook saying that this information we know to be.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying
you,
to. No, I'm trying to get to monitor on. All right, there we go.
All right, take down.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the police, trying to resolve the matter, send a letter to Facebook, and they say, we would like for you to take it down. It's creating turmoil in our community. We've investigated the situation. In fact, the information is false, and some attorney probably considers it disparaging or libelous. And Facebook says, go away, we don't know you. Then what should this teacher's next step have been had that been the case?
Do you hear that echo?
No.
Do you hear that echo?
No. I do now.
Amnon?
It's Amnon.
Can you turn the stream off?
It's Amnon.
Can you turn the stream off?
Go ahead.
You mean you still hear it?
Yes.
No, nobody's talking.
Oh, we damn! I turned down the volume. Okay.
Okay. I don't know what the next action. I don't know what the next step of action is, but I guess when the police get involved, Facebook seems to do something.
Well, I know, but I mean, this is where as an attorney, when somebody comes to you looking for a solution, and if your answer is I don't know, you don't get a client. You don't feed your family with I don't know.
Well, I understand. I'm also not an attorney.
Well, I thought you were.
So then, what are you insinuating the next action should be?
I'm asking. I ask loaded questions all the time, but this one's not loaded. What I'm saying is that let's say that Facebook thumbs its nose at the police department, says this is none of your business. We're not involved with you. We're not going to get involved.
Then you sue them.
You sue Facebook.
Yes.
Which is where this article is. It's
now see that article is not saying that the police are involved. It's saying that she is suing. She is holding Facebook accountable for the problem, which is not right. Now, when Facebook says screw off to the police department, then I believe you have the right to go after Facebook because the request was made. You can't just go, oh, my friend posted a picture of me on Facebook. Okay, now I'm going to sue Facebook. You have to do something to try to get it taken down first. In this case, the teacher went to the police. The police investigated it, asked Facebook to take it down, and the profile was removed. Now, if they had not done that, I'm sure legal action would have been taken. But I don't believe the first step is suing Facebook. That's insane. If they're not going to be responsible, then screw them, and they deserve to get sued.
It made news. You got to remember, you know what? I've got, and I make no secret of it, that I mean, I've got some confidential accounts that I use to post. I don't do anything illegal. I don't do anything that's incendiary. I actually was doing some research last night on public information that you can find in the public about people that you don't realize is there. I participate in an email list, and again, it's as benign as you can get. But often these discussions on this email list will start talking about certain people in business, and I might reflect my opinion as being unfavorable, but not disrespectful or libelous or anything like that. And I found out yesterday that every one of these conversations for this very closed group, every one of them is archived for public availability on the internet. If you could search for a keyword in one of the posts, you'd find the entire thread right there. Again, thankfully, it's a public group with a lot of members. I would never say anything there that I wouldn't say to someone's face. But there are things we say that we'd like to have in a private discussion. I mean, and you're having, even in our discussions, we say things that we would not want to have publicly aired. I mean, that's just life. That's the way life works. So all I'm saying is that a lot of these companies like the Facebooks and the Yahoos and all that, you can't get to anyone. You can't, the takedown notices YouTube will listen to, but if you wanted to talk to their attorney, good luck with that. I mean, these people are like celebrities in that they make it their life's work to insulate themselves from the great unwashed.
From the great unwashed.
Yes, we are the great unwashed. Now I am being political. This is the part where the politicians who quote unquote represent you in government, when they go out, when they're being up for re-election, and they go out and do these town meetings and they meet you and all that, and as soon as you turn your back, they go wash their hands so that they don't catch anything.
Hey, any idea why .NET would be taking like 2.5 hours to install?
Leave it alone.
2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it always takes a while, but not 2.5 hours.
Leave it alone.
I don't know.
It is like I'd say 1/10 of the way done.
Oh, are you sure there's no?
Yes, there's no dialogue, and the little thing is spinning, but it's not doing anything. Screw it.
What about your CPU?
0.
It's toast.
Yeah.
But hold on. You know what I just did?
What?
I just clicked cancel. The dialog box popped up. I clicked no, and now it's already halfway done. Wondering if the software was wonder if the software was stuck and it needed some activity to unfreeze it.
I've seen similar things to that happen.
Interesting. Now it's almost 3/4 of the way done. Okay.
The good news is that if the installation fails, the Windows Update usually will detect that it failed and restart it. What operating system?
This is Windows 7 Home Premium.
Is it a brand new installation?
Yeah, it is. I installed it yesterday.
Okay.
But it's it's a recovery installation, so it's what came stock with the computer.
That shouldn't matter. It's still, the point is that Windows updates, they sometimes get things out of order, and .NET is probably the worst update to have to do. Other than a full service pack, the .NET is one of the worst Windows updates that you can do.
I haven't done the Windows updates on this machine yet. I've been holding it off.
In fact, I had a bunch of issues with some a couple of years ago that for a while I got at the point that instead of doing 148 updates at one time, I'd go in and do 10 and reboot the computer and do 10 and reboot the computer. And if you do it that way, you'll almost never have an issue, but it's a royal pain to do that and usually unnecessary.
All right, so listen to this story here. Every so often, people who don't really understand the importance of anonymity or how it enables free speech, especially among marginalized people, think they have a brilliant idea. Let's just end anonymity online. they don't seem to understand just how short-sighted such an idea is. It's one that stems from the privilege of being in power. And who knows that particular privilege better than members of the House of Lords in the UK, a group that is more or less defined by excess privilege. The Communications Committee of the House of Lords has now issued a report concerning social media and criminal defenses, in which they basically recommend scrapping anonymity online. So, I always say, why do you have to be anonymous? But true, there are people who really, wouldn't say what they say if they couldn't be anonymous.
There's no such thing as an anonymity on the internet.
Well,
no, doesn't exist. Sorry.
But there are ways to make it difficult for people to find out who you are.
Now, okay, I'm glad you said that. Who are we talking about? People, or are we talking about a government agency trying to find out who you are? Oh, well, no. If it's people, then yes, you can be pretty anonymous. Right. If you're talking about somebody else, no, there's no somebody that's got the master key.
But you bring up a good point, Nick, and that is that the government finds out any and everything they want. But I'm on shaky ground here. I really don't have a lot of sympathy for anyone who's doing anything that would interest the government.
Right. That's a good way to put it, Mike.
I mean, if you're planning a crime or trying to legally harass someone, things that would interest the government, that is not what I think anonymity is for. Anonymity is, you know what? I don't like the way he voted on that bill, and I think he ought to lose his office. That is your absolute right, or used to be, in this country as a citizen. And I don't think there should be any law that says you have to sign it, signed Amnon. I mean, that's not free speech. That's controlled speech.
Right.
But if you're saying we're going to do terrorist things or whatever nonsense going on, I mean, that's what's gotten us this NSA nonsense and others, is people using the internet to do things that are illegal, and that's not good.
And what about whistleblowers?
What about whistleblowers?
I mean, they want to stay anonymous, right? And they should be anonymous, because otherwise,
unless there's a reward.
The what?
Unless there's a reward.
Well, yeah, if there's a reward, but in most cases, a whistleblower is somebody who sees something wrong and wants to stay at their job. On the job whistleblowers, whatever you call them.
Yeah. Well, I think I know how we can solve some of the privacy problems in this country. And that is particularly if you see what's going on in Washington now with, just take for an example, it's not a political statement, but you see Lois Lerner's emails are finally being released miraculously, and they're very redacted. They have these little black boxes all through them because it's information that the IRS has decided not to release to the public. Well, let's do away with redacting. If we request a document from a president of either party, and they have to supply those documents, the government going through emails and redacting them and determining which ones need to be under seal before. Well, let's get rid of all that. Let's just make it all public. How many issues? Think about this for a moment. How many issues are there in Congress that really should be kept away from the people who put them up there? What are they? National defense. Do you think the average Congress critter knows anything at all about national defense? That's what the generals are there for. That's what the military advisors are there for. These morons can't even read bills that they vote on. And the state's even worse.
Yeah.
I just think we ought not to be able to redact these things. Now, I mean, I say that, and yes, I can think of exceptions. I mean, if if someone like a government official sends an email that says Amnon does certain things with certain animals that he should be ashamed of, and it's obviously and ridiculously and patently false, then yes, I would say that the name should be obliterated from something like that because it's furthering the damage that's being done. But as far as saying that Joe Biden has information that the country shouldn't know about, no, he works for us. He ought to have to tell everything he knows for the most part. Well, never mind. We talk about bad examples. Yeah, Dr. John says they don't want us to know that UFOs are real.
This is here also. It's kind of interesting. I wonder how it works. The City of London Police has started placing banner advertisements on websites believed to be offering pirated content illegally. The messages, which will appear instead of paid for ads, will ask users to close their web browsers. The move comes as part of a continuing effort to stop piracy sites from earning money through advertising. Police said the ads would make it harder for piracy site owners to make their pages look authentic. When adverts from well-known brands appear on illegal websites, they lend them a look of legitimacy and inadvertently fool consumers into thinking the site is authentic.
Okay.
So how are they going to put it there? What, they're going to pay?
No, okay, so there's a problem with this, and this shows how much the London police know about piracy, which is nothing. So the big problem you have here is that most people that are pirating on a website are running ad block. So it doesn't matter what advertisement you put on their website, nobody's looking at them. Nobody that I know that pirates is not running ad block.
Good point, Nick.
That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. It's like putting a billboard that is face first on the ground. And nobody's gonna ever see it. Yeah, you know what? You might scare off the person that's pirating once, but they're running ad block. Who cares?
Let me tell you what happened this past week with a buddy of mine. This guy is a smart guy, honest to goodness. I mean, about 20 years ago, there was a project that I was working on in my field of expertise in electronics, and I got so sick of working on it that I just decided I was going to kick the project back to the guy and said, look, I can't help you with it. He said, let me help you with it. He solved it in about 2 weeks' time, no problem. Did a great job on it. I mean, the guy's good. He knows what he's doing. He's got a lot of engineering background. He's a genius when it comes to certain products. He's computer challenged though. He really doesn't understand computers as well as you would think that he should. And one of his email accounts apparently has been very privately held. He's never gotten spam on it, and apparently somehow the email address got out and people were sending it. So he was getting bounces and things like that. And he said, the typical question, I don't understand how this is happening. Why am I getting all this stuff? Why are people, how did this happen? I explained to him, I said, your email address got out. Somebody used your email address to spoof spam. There's nothing you can do about it. And over time it'll go. Well, I just don't, and he called back 2 or 3 days. So I've gotten several more. I don't know what to do about this. And he said, one of them's got a zip file on it. And I'm not so sure about that. I said, have you lost your mind? Do you know who sent it to you? No. And you're going to open that zip file from someone you've never heard of? A zip file? Really? Pause. Of course not. Okay. I mean, we sometimes forget that not everyone is as dead into the technology as we are. They're not as interested. They don't spend as much time. They spend their time and efforts working on other things. And he's a perfect example of that. So again, I go through and explain things about never open a zip file, never open an exe file unless not only you know the person who's sending it to you, but they've probably told you under separate cover that they are sending it to you. I mean, if I send Amnon an exe file by an email attachment, it's only going to be after I've said, Amnon, I'm sending you an exe that does such and such and such. Okay, so when he gets it, he's willing to open it. If he gets one from me, I mean, as much as I'm out there and people have done spoofs with my email address, if you got an exe file from me and you weren't expecting it, you'd be crazy to open it.
Well, the big problem here is the problem with what you're saying is most email providers aren't going to let you either you're not going to be able to send an exe.
Now.
So I wouldn't even worry about that. I don't even think that's a problem.
You can do it too. There are some places you can send it, particularly if you're operating your own shared servers.
Right.
No, okay, yeah, no, you may be able to send it, but you for example, I have Time Warner as one of my main email addresses. I can't. I won't receive an exe. Gmail's not going to receive an exe.
Right, but
you're not
that's where we are in 2014. That isn't the way it was in 2010.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Not everyone has updated to the current standard, which is a good standard.
Yeah, I agree.
But it just was amazing to me that I would even have to start explaining these things. But again, no one, with these questions, we would have been typically to mutter to ourselves, what an idiot. And this guy is absolutely anything but an idiot. But he's just not up to speed and up to date on the ways of the Internet at this point.
We developed a lot of the rules for anti-spam on Delta Force, and one that is being used a lot out there, and sometimes I get complaints about it, is when a spammer sends you to a website or so-called website. In many cases, the link will be http://98.122.55.62/ blah, 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 blah. Because it's not a registered domain name. And they can do that on the fly. The website may be their own computer at this point. So we have a rule that says that if you see that numerical host names are not allowed, and if it sees it there, it sends it back. It says, sorry, we cannot forward this one to whoever you're trying to send it to because of that. Some people do complain, and some programs are actually in the signature, we found out, are sticking those IPs in there for no reason other than they don't know what they're doing. And I've seen this with, what is that program? Constant Contact. And I'm saying, why is this an IP? And you go and you do an NS lookup on that IP address, and it has a name. A name that has to do with the company. Why are you putting an IP there instead of the name? It's because they don't know what they're doing. But it's being used a lot. I mean, when I go and look at the mail logs and list anything that has to do with numeric, there are thousands that are coming through every day like that. So if you see any kind of an email that has a link in it, and it's actually, and remember, it's not what you're seeing, it's where it's actually is going to take you. So if you put your cursor on it, and at the bottom on the status line you see http:// and a number, stay away from it. unless somebody is telling you, look, I'm building a website, and that's, in that case, it works. And I'm doing it on my machine, and I've got it set up like that, and I want you to come and see the changes. What do you think? But that's one big trick that the spammers are using.
Yeah, I use Sendspace, SENDSPACE.com,
Right.
which is very easy to upload a file to that and then send someone the link.
Right.
But even then, before you download it, you sort of got to know about it, sort of got to get an idea, because that could be spoofed as well.
Yep. Another thing that's been occupying a lot of my time lately is, and I don't know how it works on Windows servers, on Linux servers, Unix servers, somebody can very easily get the usernames because of I guess the way that it's set up. That's the way that they can look at the usernames. And I'm seeing a lot of failed attempts to log into people's emails. To FTP, nobody can, because you have to be your IP has to be in the firewall to allow you. But for email, to send mail and to receive mail. And I know, they don't care about receiving. They want to be able to send. So I had Ron put a rule for fail to ban that if anybody fails on a password for so many times, and it's a very low number, add them to the firewall so they can't even connect to the server. And it's been like that for about, I don't know, maybe a month, a little over a month. I got 2 calls from customers that say, I'm having a problem with the email. And you go in and you look, and that's what happened. And you ask them, so what happened? He said, oh, I was just, I don't know what, I was playing with my password. I wasn't sure about it, so that's what messed it up. So, and you just take it out and everything is fine. But every hour, it rotates the log every hour. There are tens of thousands of attempts. And you know that these are, I don't know, people in China or wherever trying to break in. And it's such a good feeling to say, okay, yeah. It's, you guys think that somebody trying to break into Gmail or Yahoo it doesn't do any good. It does a lot of good for them once they break in, because then they can send millions of emails before something is flagged.
I just have to wonder if, spamming must be profitable. I don't know who responds to spam, but if you have a Gmail account, you almost never see any.
Right.
I don't understand where the money is, but it must be out there or people wouldn't keep doing it. At our office, I forget which enterprise spam system we have, but I think it's something like 98% of the email traffic we get is rejected.
Right.
98%.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, but we were talking a moment ago about how ignorance is fixable, stupid is forever.
Right.
Listen to this comment on this article. For the title, I'm okay with. Al-Qaeda prefers Android over Apple's iOS. Okay, I have no idea if that's
cheaper.
True. But listen to this next statement. Listen carefully. Apple's iOS has taken majority market share in education, government, and the enterprise.
Really?
That's what it says. Major market share in education, government, and the enterprise. Now, I'm assuming when they say iOS, they're talking about phones.
Right.
Majority market share. I don't think that's true. I don't even think it's close.
No, but it's that
And
person's.
it's like Dr. John says, what enterprise?
It's-
Fact. Now, I will agree with schools.
Yes.
They have taken the majority in schools.
No, well, we're talking iOS now. Does that?
Yeah.
But I'm going to show my ignorance here. Andrew just answered part of it being iPads.
I'm not. I don't think it's the iPads. It's the iMacs. My school has got a library that's all Macintoshes except for one section. There's probably, let's see, let's pull out a calculator here. Probably 30 in there. Then above that, there's just like another computer room. There's probably, I don't know, maybe another 30 in there, and then there's two other ones in the school, which 30 or 40 each. That are every computer in there is iMacs. So they've got probably close to 200, maybe 200 plus iMacs in the whole school.
And then they were going to go protest that they don't have any money.
Oh yes, of course.
Oh,
and
yes.
then they buy piece of junk Windows computers and then have to replace them every year because they don't spend more than $300 on them.
All right, but yet then they're not as good as Mac. So what about this article? When it comes to tablets, everyone's aware that Microsoft was late to the game. However, the company's recent decision to waive licensing fees on small smartphones and tablets appears to be paying dividends. Two Chinese manufacturers have recently announced the upcoming release of inexpensive Windows 8.1 tablets, both with competitive specs and pricing. The EMDOR, spelled E-M-D-O-O-R, the EMDOR EMI8080, that sounds like a bad name, which was unveiled during Computex in early June, is an 8-inch Windows 8.1 device with a 1280 by 800 IPS screen, backed by 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigabyte SSD, powered by Intel Atom.
Lovely.
Connectivity includes a micro SD slot, micro USB, and mini HDMI. The EMDOR i8080 is expected to be released later this year at around $100 US. Is there a market?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
$100?
They're not stupid. If they're going to do it, they know that there is a market.
No, they have no other choice. That's the problem.
$100. Let me say why I bring that up. Tim says that he works at a school. I work on a high school that just updated to iPads and iMacs. Now we already talked about where schools, schools have given all of their students iPads so that they don't have to provide textbooks. 40% of them are lost or broken within 1 year.
Yeah, you say all schools, and I don't believe the numbers that
a lot
Apple's
of
throwing out there.
schools.
No, you know what, Amnon? No, I 100% disagree. Not a lot. Out of all of the school districts in the Albany area, which there's probably 25 school districts, I don't know a single one of them that have iPads. And this isn't just a small little dinky area.
And Albany is a major technology mecca now because of this nanotechnology center that they built up there.
When I'm saying a lot of schools, I mean a lot of schools. And that doesn't mean majority or anything. But if there are 1 million schools in the United States and 1,000 of them did, that's a lot. 1,000 is a lot of schools. Now, not in relation or in compare to the number, just in general. That's what I meant, Nick. Don't get all.
No, but I don't think it's a lot because you know what a lot of schools are adopting here? Chromebooks. The school district that my cousins attend, they have Chromebooks and they work great. They're $100.
Yeah,
Having said that, then, so does that make the point that there's a good chance that these 100? Think about it. Let's suppose we're all elected to the school board. We've got to appropriate funds for electronic devices for school books so that we don't have to buy school books.
All right.
Would you rather use a $600 iPad or a $100 Windows tablet?
Well, it depends. The $100 Windows tablet's probably going to be a piece of junk, and in that case, I'd say you go with the iPad because
it works.
Yep. See, you have the wrong assumption.
No, it's untested at this point.
Mike, go on eBay, Go to you know who you should go to. Go to Big Lots and see what they have available for $100 for a tablet. It's a piece of junk.
I agree with that, but this product has not been released.
Doesn't matter if it hasn't been released.
Let me take another issue here, Nick. Why is it garbage?
The ones that they have at Big Lots?
They're garbage.
No. To give them $1,000 tablet. I mean $100 tablet.
No.
They're slow. You mash buttons and nothing happens.
The screen is responsive.
But when you use it instead of a book, what do you have to do to it?
No, it's not usable, Amnon. I would be interested. Go to Big Lots, spend $100 on this tablet, play with it for a day, and return it. It is the biggest piece of garbage you will ever use. The screen actually pushes down. That's how the responsiveness works. The screen pushes down. It's a total piece of garbage. QVC sells them too. That's the problem. These schools, they have the wrong thing. They spend $1,500 on an iMac, spend $200 on a Windows desktop, and have to replace them every year. They haven't. I don't get it. They have no problem spending money on the Apple stuff, but when it comes to buying other things, they just totally cheap out. And I think it's because the people in IT are morons. I can tell you for a fact at my school that they're brain dead idiots. They have no clue what they're doing.
I got Kathy a tablet that was $130. What was it? I forgot. I don't remember.
Was it the Nexus?
Nexus 5.
Yeah. Okay.
5?
So you got it.
7.
Now so you got it on sale. The Nexus 5 is normally $200.
It was $130. It was the first generation, but she didn't need anything. She's been using it for what? Almost 2 years?
Oh, the Nexus tablets are great, but those aren't the $100 tablets that the schools are buying. They're buying the ones that cost $100 retail.
Listen to this. The second tablet is a Windows 8 tablet from a Chinese manufacturer, Kingsing. You gotta love these names.
Yep.
Kingsing already sells a range of affordable Android handsets, but it has now shown off its first Windows tablet, the W8, which will go on sale for $99. For that price, consumers will get a quad-core 1.8 gigahertz Intel Bay Trail T processor, which I've never heard of, and 1 gigabyte of RAM, along with 16 gigabyte storage and an SD card slot. The W8 sports an 8-inch IPS LCD screen with 1280 by 800 resolution, front and rear 2-megapixel cameras, as well as stereo speakers.
And what OS?
Windows 8.
On 1 gig? Interesting.
Now, you say, is it a piece of junk? It very well could be. It could be like some of this $69 crap that you're seeing now. But reality is this company, based on this article, Kingsing, is already in the business of manufacturing Android handsets. If their capability of handling the handsets were not already there, then you might say who knows what it is, but they probably already have some experience dealing with the public and send returns and things of that nature. But for $99, I'd buy one to put it on the table beside my chair in front of the TV. Just to find out when this actor passed away or what other movies they were in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I guess we'll see.
Alan says he saw 2 Acer tablets at Costco. Smaller one was 97. Smaller one was 97. The larger one was 179. The Samsung ones are at least double that. I mean, it's got to be a growing part of the market, and if people don't think that these cheap tablets are not going to interfere with Apple tablet sales, they're mistaken. The major criticisms against Apple are not the operating system or the usability or the user experience. The big complaint with Apple is price.
No, but for a school, that's not an object.
No, I know schools have unlimited money, but I'm talking about for normal people. So.
Oh, Aaron, you can laugh.
I'm laughing.
There's too much truth to it. It's obvious.
The school gave us over $10,000. in funding this year. Actually, more than 10,000 for.
Yeah, you bought a TriCaster.
Yeah, over $10,000.
But how often do you get that kind of money?
Every few years.
Yeah.
And John is making a good point, and I meant to say this a while ago, and he's correct. He says that if you have your product in many schools, you may be willing to take less of a profit for several reasons. Among them, the kids who know your product want to use it at home too, and influencing the parents. No doubt about, well, as far as I know, no doubt about it that the schools get some fairly sweetheart deals from Apple to buy their equipment. I mean, where did the name Apple come from? Take your teacher an apple, right? The education. They focused on the education market for the long haul, knowing that if kids grew up on Apple computers as adults, that's what they would want. But Jerry Lee Lewis says Apple tried that in the old days. It really didn't work. Well, obviously it didn't work because, I mean, if you look at the market penetration for Apple products, I mean, it's a joke. Apple's growth and success are in the iOS and the phones business and pads. That's where they made theirs. So anyway, that being said, they have become very successful in the education market, and I'm having to assume based on their earnings that they're making money selling to the educational market. So it hasn't worked maybe for their intended purpose, but for other purposes, they've been very successful in the education market, not only for iOS, but also for their computing platform. I mean, they just don't exist. Apple computers don't. I mean, there are no absolutes. You're correct. Apple computers they're just not in the enterprise market space. They're not. That's not their market. I mean, what is it? If you want to go buy a computer now, it's either an Apple computer, it's either a laptop, a ridiculously underpowered, runs too hot Apple Mini, or a MacBook, a Mac Pro that doesn't even allow you to put external cards into it. That none of that fits enterprise. The only thing that fits enterprise is the laptops, and if the enterprise is a Microsoft house, they're not going to go out and buy Apple computers to add to their Microsoft network. All right, it's 12 o'clock.
And then I have an update for you. Are you here?
Of course I'm here. You have an update.
Yeah. The SnowCam is a go.
Meaning?
The layout is all set up.
Okay, and everything is working? I mean, you're not pissed at anything anymore?
No, I'm still a little PO'd at the way it's working, but that's what it's going to look like.
Let's see.
Plus, there's going to be 2 additional.
Tell everybody what it is. People that don't know.
Well, no, I don't want to talk about it now. There's nothing to show. But as it gets closer to the season, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
People remember from last year. I think I showed it last year. I think I was doing the show last year.
Nick is a weather expert.
I'm not. I'm not a weather expert. Most of these weather guys have no clue what they're doing, so I take the technology side of it.
Fact.
And throw. Now today I'm going out to Home Depot or Lowe's. And I'm gonna see what I can see if I can get some type of halogen bulb enclosure to wire this camera up with, and we'll see.
Well, wait a minute. Halogen is not environment friendly. You need to get LED.
Just the enclosure. I don't want the bulb.
Okay. Just want to make sure you're not going to destroy the planet.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy 50 of them and just crack the light bulbs and throw them away.
You hater.
Oh, something interesting.
It's about time.
Never mind. We'll talk about it after the show.
All right. Okay, everybody. That was a good show, if I may say so myself.
Hold on, quick question, or quick answer. CEG3 is asking if I'm really in high school. Yes, I am.
Yes, he is.
Failed 15 times.
Yeah, he's really 28 years old.
Yeah.
He
likes high school so much he's been there for 10 years.
Yeah, I'm going to my senior year.
He's a little mouthy, but he's pretty smart.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And good afternoon to Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9. But you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And while you're at it, like us on Facebook. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tomorrow morning at 10:30 instead of 11 is the Health In Show. And everybody else too. See ya.
Tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.